Hello everyone. Welcome to a new and amazing part of What If Deku Ran an Orphanage. This story is written by Kyodon. Please remember to support them. The link to the story is in the bio below. Remember to like, sub, and share the video around for more amazing stories. Now let's start the story. I can't wait for the show. Kay cheered. Quite a few of the Midoriya kids had gathered in a new building that had been built on Midoriya grounds. The Midoriya Planetarium. At a joking suggestion by Ochiko, Izuku had this place built to allow the children to view the cosmos, study the stars, etc. It also did something that no other planetarium did, opening portals to the collective unconsciousness. The room was a large cylinder. On the bottom were beds, with the kids all lying down looking up, waiting for the show to start. Above them was a glass, very thick glass, meant to keep the heat and chaos energy from seeping down onto the onlookers. And behind it, the portal would open. Meanwhile, outside of that room was another room filled with workers and machines. Most of them were simply there to turn the machine on and off again, as well as related protocols. Although a couple of them were there to monitor the event and make sure nothing unexpected happened. Back in the viewing room, Kiba and Fu were lying down next to each other, waiting for the show to start. "So are you excited to see the world beyond our own?" Kiba asked. "Surprisingly, yes. About as excited as I can be." Fu shrugged. "I just hope it'll be pretty enough to make me feel something." "The show is about to begin. Everyone, get ready," the workers announced. Everyone could hear the sounds of the machines starting, and they all went silent as the lights came off. A crack in reality appeared above them behind the glass, before tearing open and growing larger, becoming a grand portal into the collective unconscious. Whoa! The children looked up at the portal in awe, staring at the infinite void of consciousness and things they couldn't possibly understand, yet thought were beautiful nonetheless. "It's amazing," Kiba said breathlessly. Eventually, she turned to look at Fu. "So, does this make you feel something?" "Why, yeah." Fu stuttered, his face twisted in confusion. "Weird, I feel." "Partner?" Kyosei asked in his head. He could tell something was wrong with Fu. Fu was feeling something that he couldn't. As for what he was feeling, Fu could feel something inside him, something that was spread through his entire body, getting pulled and twisted. And then everything went black for him as his eyes rolled back. "Fu! Fu!" Kiba cried out in a panic, getting everyone's attention. Meanwhile, back in the control room, some of the scientists were looking at the monitors in confusion. "Something's wrong. There's a signal here I've never seen before. It's going through the glass." "Shit! Shut it down! Shut it down!" one of the other workers shouted. The workers frantically worked to shut down the portal, turning off the machines that were keeping the portal open. But even with that, the portal didn't close. "The portal's keeping itself open, so we can't close it," shouted one scientist. "Get the kids out of there. Emergency. Code red," shouted another one, slamming his fist on a big red button. Back in the viewing chamber, all the kids had gathered around the unconscious Fu, trying to wake him, when the lights suddenly came on and everything flashed red as alarms went off. "That's probably not good," Inu said. "Grab him and let's get out of here," Yaba shouted. Kiba went to grab him, but suddenly one of Kyosei's tendrils pushed him away. "What? Kyoshi, what are you dash?" "They are talking," Kyosei said, using Fu's mouth to speak. Crack. Suddenly a crack appeared in the glass above them, and they could see some glowing around the crack. Then suddenly the portal closed. The alarms continued to go on for some time, but none of the kids left, all too concerned about what was going on with Fu. And eventually, the alarms stopped. "Fu! Fu! Kyoshi, what's going on?" Kiba demanded, utterly confused and distraught by this unexpected development. "I don't know," Kyosei admitted. Something was happening inside Fu, but he had no idea what. And then suddenly Fu's body came to life. His eyes rolled forward, his body spasmed, and his long-dead organs suddenly came to life. His heart is trying to pump the still blood through his veins. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" Fu screamed, sounding like he was choking on something at the same time, freaking everyone out further. And then it stopped. Fu's body went still, once more, his eyes rolling back once again. Everyone was silent for some time, none of them knowing what to say or what to do, as none of them could even take a guess as to what was happening. Until Fu spoke. "Hey guys, I'm okay." "Probably." "Okay, thank goodness." Kiba immediately threw herself onto him and hugged him, crying tears of joy. Wait, why are your eyes still, backward? Yaba asked as she noticed Fu wasn't quite right. His eyes were still rolled over, and he wasn't moving anything aside from his mouth. Well, something happened. I don't know what exactly, but there's someone else in my body now. Fu explained. And that person is also me. What? Asked literally everyone. Yeah, like I said. I don't know what happened either. Fu said. Kyosei, can you get me to the lab? I can't move anything but my mouth, and even that's hard. Kyosei sprouted tendrils from Fu's back and started walking him out of the viewing room, taking him right to the lab. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX said, as he, Futaba, and I walked through the halls of the lab. As long as we followed the safety protocols, they should have been fine. So what was that? I told you, specifically, that nothing from what we observed should have been able to harm anyone so long as you followed the protocols. Futaba clarified. And let's not forget, you didn't ask me to chime in on whether that whole viewing room was a good idea. You talked to my department. You know how hard it is for cognitive scientists to find jobs? You think they're going to argue with their boss? Growling, Izuku was kicking himself. Futaba had taken one of her few days off when Izuku had decided to add that CU feature to the planetarium, and so he'd consulted her staff about the issue. He hadn't taken into account how meek cognitive scientists were. As for what happened, I can only tell that Fu somehow interacted with something inside the collective unconscious, and something came out of it, and into Fu, Futaba explained. I don't know how, why, or really anything other than what I just told you. Physically, his body seems normal half of the time, although sometimes it tries to reanimate itself, and not in the normal way, like it's trying to be fully alive again, rather than undead. Mai explained. His chaos energy readings are all over the place too. Although despite reading that something went into him, we're not detecting any foreign chaos energy signatures. We couldn't figure out what was going on at first, but eventually, we threw up our hands and started observing his vestige. And then we found something. That something being a vestige, which normally everyone has, except Fu. Fu notably didn't have one when we last checked, but now not only does he have one, but it's more formed than all the others we observed. Figuring that was the source of the problem, we sent him to Dr. Murasaki. He's the one who's done the most studying on vestiges, remnants, and the like. He's looking at Fu now. Eventually, they reached the room they were looking for. They opened the white metal door and entered, coming into what almost looked like room for surgery, with one bed in the center where Fu lay limp and a bunch of tools and scientific instruments filling the room. And standing over Fu was Dr. Murasaki. He turned when he heard the door open. Ah, Mr. Midoriya, I think you'll be pleased to know that I figured out what happened to your son. What? What happened? Izuku urged the man, growing increasingly impatient the longer he was left in the dark. He just wanted to know that Fu would be okay. And if not, what he needed to do to make him okay. Well, it's a long story. Fu, could you tell us what happened when you passed out? Dr. Murasaki asked. Sure, Fu said, still with his eyes rolled back and still unable to move. When Fu first opened his eyes after passing out, he thought he was looking in a mirror for a second. After all, what else would you think when you were looking at yourself? But he very quickly realized what he was looking at wasn't a mirror, because while the person he was looking at did look an awful lot like him, he lacked white hair, dead eyes, and green skin. Instead, having a completely normal skin tone, black hair, and very alive and expressive brown eyes. However, what really tipped him off was the fact that the boy started screaming. Aha! The boy immediately jumped back, falling on his, but as he looked at Fu fearfully. Why does my life have to be so weird? Fu sighed. He looked around. The two of them were currently in a small, white, featureless hallway, with two doors on either end. What was weird was that both doors gave him feelings. The door closer to him gave him a feeling of safety, while the other gave a feeling of dread and fear. And for some reason, the boy getting closer to the dread door made him very, very nervous. The boy scrambled to his feet and turned to run, only to stop in his tracks. Fu could only assume that the boy felt the same feeling from that door that he did. Hey, I know this is probably scary, but I need you to come with me. Who are you? The boy turned around to face Fu, still looking to be afraid of him, but far less so than the door. Where am I? My name is Fu. Fu introduced himself. And yours? Fu, hi. The boy was introduced. The fear on his face was replaced with curiosity. Do I know you? You just might, Fu answered. Honestly, he'd felt a strong sense of familiarity with the boy as well, like meeting an old friend. And along with that, he felt a strong urge to protect him, and to make sure he went through the door on his side, rather than the spooky, ominous door. Given that they looked very similar, and had the exact same name, it didn't take a genius to figure out that this boy was Fu. Somehow, this wasn't a dream. Fu didn't have those. Not to mention, he was feeling more emotion than he normally would. I have no idea what's going on, but probably best to go with the flow and get through the door. Fu thought to himself. Look, I know you must be confused and scared, but you see that door behind me? Fu said, pointing to what he was talking about. Do you feel like that door is safe? Like you want to go through it? Fu Hai looked at the door, and then back at Fu, and nodded. Then let's go, Fu said, reaching out a hand. Fu Hai looked hesitant for a moment, but the feeling of familiarity and trust erased most of the unease he felt towards Fu, and he took his hand. The two went over to the safe door, and Fu pushed it open, revealing nothing but bright light. Here we go, Fu said, hoping that this feeling wasn't a trick. The two entered the light, and everything washed away. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX familiar and foreign. It looked similar to Fu's room back at the house, but it was covered in decorations. Posters of heroes, TV shows, etc., as well as other decorations. Oh great, this is still happening. Fu sighed. He honestly hoped that once they walked through the door, that all of this would end. He should have known. Is this my room? Fuhai asked, looking around and recognizing all his stuff. But the room itself was unfamiliar. Okay, well, let's... Fu tried to think of what to do, but honestly, he was stumped. He had no clue what was happening or why, so he couldn't even begin to figure out how to fix it. Let's just sit tight. Someone will dash. Slam. Suddenly the door to the room slammed open, revealing more light behind it. Fuhai was covered in light, and before either of them could react, he was whisked away through the door by some invisible force before the door slammed shut. Okay, sure. I guess that might as well happen. Fu sighed, and then the room began to shake, as if an earthquake was happening. It lasted for a few seconds, before stopping as suddenly as it started. Slam. Suddenly the door slammed open once again, and Fuhai was chucked back into the room, trembling and gasping for air. Fu immediately ran to the boy's aid, hugging him as his instincts told him to do. It's okay. It's okay. You're okay. Fuhai tried to put into words what just happened, but he couldn't say anything past his panic. Tears blocked his sight, and snot filled his nose. He couldn't see. He could barely hear anything over his own breath. All he could do was feel Fu's presence. A calming, reassuring presence. It was strange just how much Fu being around him calmed him down. And with him there, and after a few minutes, he managed to calm down enough to talk. I felt like I was dying. Fuhai explained, still shivering and crying his eyes out. I could feel everything. But it felt like I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Did you see anyone? Hear anyone? Fu asked, having a strong feeling about what might have happened. Other kids? I think so. Fuhai said, trying to recall the background noise he heard as he spasmed about. They were calling you. So he did take over my body. Or I guess our body? I don't know. Fu sighed, still rubbing circles into the boy's back to calm him down. Well, I guess I know what to do next. Fu took a few more moments to calm him before moving back. Fuhai looked at him with wide shocked eyes, begging to feel his embrace again. Okay, I'm going to go through that door. And once I do, I'll find a way to help you. Fu told him. Do you trust me? Yes, Fuhai answered almost immediately, much to his own surprise. Fu nodded before turning to the door. It was still open and emitting light. He walked towards it and attempted to go through it, only to hit what felt like a wall. Oh, come on, Fu groaned. He pressed his hands up against the invisible wall and pushed, feeling his hands sinking in slightly. It wasn't like a solid wall, more elastic. Maybe he could push through it. And so Fu tried, pushing his entire body against the invisible wall, pushing and pushing and pushing until his head came through. After my head went through, I could speak again, but I still can't see, Fu explained. I still can't move either. And no matter what I do, I can't get the rest of my body through the barrier. Fascinating, isn't it? Dr. Murasaki said, looking absolutely over the moon. Taking his story into account and looking over all my research, I've come up with the answer. Simply put, the Fu you've known. The one that's been around ever since that car accident. Isn't Fu. What? Izuku asked, completely lost. Not me, Fu said, equally confused. Gonna have to explain that. When Fuhai was hit by that car, his quirk was still developing, not fully formed. Dr. Murasaki explained. So when he was dying, his half-baked quirk attempted to force itself into fully forming to save him. But it failed. Fuhai's soul had left his body by the time his quirk finished forming, just before it could save his life. However, it still fixed him up, and it still tried to save him. But with his soul gone, his body needed something else to run it. His vestige. My eyes widened. Of course, a vestige is almost like a second soul left behind in the body after it dies. It has memories, feelings, thoughts, and most of the things from the original soul. If someone wanted to bring back a dead person, they would use their vestige to reanimate them. The process has never been perfect, but if it was, it could almost be like the person was brought back in full. I thought the closest thing we saw to that was Kurogiri. I never suspected Fu would be, but that would explain a few things. Like why we couldn't find his vestige at first. Dr. Murasaki explained. Because he was the vestige. And why some of his emotions and sensations are dumbed down or missing. If it was just because he was dead, he shouldn't have been able to feel anything. It shouldn't be that weirdly selective. It would also explain why his quirk is the way that it is. Why bring him back as a zombie? Why make him rot? It's because this Fu was never alive to begin with. He was born dead. So why wouldn't he come back as a zombie? An incomplete soul, born from a cosmic mistake. So Fu's been a clone? Izuku couldn't believe what he was hearing. His quirk just replaced his soul with a backup? Basically, Dr. Murasaki confirmed. Since it no longer had the original, it had to make do. However, when we opened a portal to the collective unconscious, that changed. That place doesn't just possess the minds and souls of the living, but the dead as well. Fuhai's soul likely possessed some trace of his quirk, and if an opportunity arose, it would attempt to revive itself. We provided that opportunity, and Fuhai's soul and body called out to each other. That hallway you saw was likely your mind trying to comprehend the soul bridge you two created. The door you didn't choose led to death, which is why your survival instincts told you to avoid it. The other door leads back to Fu's body, bringing the long-dead real Fu back into the world of the living. Wow, I thought the only thing that could make this day worse was being told I'd be stuck like this. Fu thought to himself. But no, my day found a new, creative way to get worse. However, there were issues. Dr. Murasaki said, looking back over Fu. Fu's body isn't the way it used to be. Hell, it's not even the same body the original died in. His body's been rotted and destroyed, completely replaced time and time again. Reborn as a living corpse. His body is still trying to put the original soul back in charge, but the body is no longer suitable for it. And the copy can't take control either because the body outright rejects him, so long as the original still stays inside his body. The only reason he can do this much is because he's had control for so long. So what do we do now? Izuku would deal with the whole copy thing later. For now, all he needed to know was that he had 2 kids to save. 2 kids that were the same kid, but again, deal with that later. Assuming you want both souls to have their own bodies, we have one solution. Dr. Murasaki said, rip out the original soul. I died. Fuhai shouted as Fu and him were once again in the room they shared inside their own body. I died. Well, he's taking this about as well as I thought he would. Fu thought. He'd been repeating, I died, for about 10 minutes now, rocking back and forth in the fetal position, while Fu kept patting him on the back, trying to calm him down. It's okay. You're dead anymore. Fu told him. You're gonna be alive again, as soon as they find a way to rip your soul out of this body. They're gonna rip my soul out. Fuhai wailed, tears pouring out of his eyes like rivers. Yeah, when I say it out loud, I guess that's not comforting. Fu sighed. Once again, Fu was at a loss on how to handle this. What does one say to comfort someone after finding out they died? and now they are going to have their soul removed from their body and placed into a new one. So he just waited. After hours, Fuhai eventually started to calm down. Or rather, he cried so much he tired himself out. "We're rich now," Fu said, hoping to distract the other boy. This did get his attention. Fuhai pointing his attention to his other self. What? Yeah, after mom, you know. Fu saw the boy tear up again. His mother's abandonment was another massive blow to Fuhai's mind. We got adopted by a really rich guy, and then he got even richer. He's probably the most rich and powerful person in the whole world right now. How? Fuhai asked, perhaps forcing himself to focus on Fu's words instead of the terrifying situation he was in, that he was powerless to fix. Fortunately for him, Fu's story was very, very long. So how do we go about this process? Izuku asked. He, Futaba, Mai, and Murasaki had taken their discussion to a meeting room, while leaving Fu's body under supervision. I've made designs for a machine that should be capable of removing souls entirely, Dr. Murasaki explained. Of course, I've only ever worked on it in my free time, and I've never constructed, much less tested it. Unless we want to risk potentially permanent consequences for Fu, we should test it on animals. Fine. Izuku sighed. He definitely didn't like the idea of ripping out animals' souls for the sake of experimentation, but he had little choice at this point. Proceed with the experiments immediately. Top priority. But after we take out the soul, what next? We need a body to put it in. Theoretically, we could have Yami make a grim body, but I'm unsure of how that would interact with his soul. Worst case scenario, the negativity corrupts him. I said, it would be best to simply build him a new body from scratch. Why bother with an organic body? Murasaki asked. Why not give him an improved, robotic one? I think confining the boy to flesh would be short-sighted. The boy's been through too much. Waking as an android just might cause his mind to collapse. Izuku said. The door opened, and Dr. Hada stepped through. Sorry for being late. I just got briefed on the situation. Dr. Hada, can you create Fuhai a body from scratch? Izuku asked. In most cases, that would be hard. But for Fuhai, it should be simpler. Dr. Hada explained, taking a seat at the table. Fu's DNA is coded to rebuild itself. All it requires is materials and chaos energy. With enough of that, any piece of Fu could be grown into a fully formed body. We've been studying it for that reason. The only real issue is making sure the body is alive for Fuhai. But I can think of a few ways to fix that problem. In short, we can absolutely do it. Good. Then our plan of action is set. I want everything done as quickly as possible and without flaw. Izuku said, take no risk. Test everything. I won't have any unexpected occurrences this time. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX were chilling in the band room, relaxing after another practice session, when Ni's suddenly brought that up. Why yeah, it's crazy. Fuku shivered. I'm not sure which is creepier. Dying and your body getting right back up thinking it's you. Or being a copy and not even knowing it. I'm telling you this place gets crazier and crazier every day, Sheena said, sipping some hot chocolate. So everyone has a vestige, and Fu's vestige became its own personality. Am I a vestige? Ni's asked. Sheena shrugged. You'll have to ask the scientists. So what do you guys think about this? Ko asked using text-to-speech. I think it's pretty cool. Like a plot twist in real life. I feel bad for both of them. I know Fu doesn't feel much, but all this has to be at least kinda hard on him. He just found out all this time. He wasn't who he thought he was. And that he's had a counterpart who was dead this whole time. And that other Fu literally died, now that I think about it. There's a lot of people here who've been killed and come back to life. Eri and Kiba did that too. Yeah, it's kinda weird. Fuku noted. But I think we should just treat it like a new kid came in. Fu and other Fu will probably feel like they're freaks, and the other people will think they're freaks. We need to make sure that they know they're still our friends. Or family. Wow, that's surprisingly deep for you, Fuku. Sheena said, slightly impressed by Fuku's insight. Good job. Ko gave her a round of applause, which made Fuku blush with embarrassment. I just thought about how I would feel if I was them, Fuku muttered. And that's what we love about you, Fuku. Ni's praised, seemingly a bit more chipper than before for some reason. Anyway, back to practice, guys. I'm fired up. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Kiba shouted as she played Doom never-ending on stream in her room. I can't believe she hasn't died yet. Little Kibas become a true gamer. How they grow. Knock, knock, knock. Lady Kiba, I would like a word. Yonda said from the other side of the door. Can it not wait? I'm in the middle of something. Kiba sighed as she paused the game. I'm aware, but I need to speak to you sooner rather than later. Yonda told her. Kiba groaned. 1 minute, my followers. I'm having a conversation with Yonda, and we can't hear it because it's in their heads. Don't know much about that Yonda girl. Wonder what she's like. So what's your opinion on the whole Fu situation? Yonda asked. You seem very relaxed. Is that all you came here for? Kiba rolled her eyes. Fu being a clone changes nothing. I never even met the original Fu, so it's not like he replaced him for me. As for the other Fu, he'll just be one more sibling. And I'm so relaxed because Daddy, I mean caretaker, has assured me that Fu will be fine. Yes, that is what he said. But I want you to understand, Father and the scientist barely know anything about this situation. So there is a possibility something could go wrong. Yonda said. Kiba glared at her. Yonda, what did you come here for? Oh, she mad. She only makes that expression when someone insults the quirkless or her dad. What did Yonda say? Simply to make sure that if the situation worsens, you don't lose your cool. Yonda said. We all know how close you and Fu are. If something happened, you might forget to control your strength for a second. Or worse, go into that berserk state. That's not happening. Kiba thought firmly. Fu is going to be fine, and even if I did lose control of myself, this suit will. The suit only does so much, and you know that. Yonda reminded her. But I have something that can help you out a bit more. She reached behind her and pulled out a bag, handing it to Kiba. Kiba opened it and found that there were a few of Amai's calming candies inside them. Did Daddy let you have these? Yes, I actually asked for them this time. Yonda explained. He has similar worries, and he wants you to have these just in case. But he said that everything would be fine. Kiba said, starting to sound worried. Everything should be fine. Yonda corrected her. But everything should have been fine when we went to see the collective unconscious. But something that no one could have predicted would happen. And in case that happens again, we need you to be prepared. Such is the burden of power. Okay, now it looks like she got some really bad news. Lady Kiba, are you okay? I do apologize for having to worry you, but it's best we do this, rather than the worst happening, you accidentally turning someone into soup. Yonda explained. Again, such is the burden of power. But the chances of something unexpected happening are low, and everything should be fine. So don't be too upset. And one more thing, the new Fu is going to be alive, not undead, which means he'll feel pain. So don't go treating him like the old Fu, even if he can regenerate. Okay, okay, Kiba answered grimly. Thank you for reminding me. A week later, everything was finally in place. They were ready for the separation process. Meanwhile, Fu and Fuhai were in their little cognitive room, waiting for the extraction to happen. Fuhai was trembling a bit, and Fu was keeping his distance, trying to make sure he didn't get in the way of the process. TT, this isn't gonna hurt, right? Fuhai asked. Fu shrugged. I don't know, but it wouldn't last long if it did. And it's better than being stuck in here forever. Why, yeah, you're right, Fuhai said, still sounding utterly terrified. Remember, even when we separate, you won't be alone, Fu assured him. I'll always be there for you. Always. Thanks, Fu, Fuhai said, almost smiling a bit. Crash. Suddenly, a giant shadow hand crashed through the roof and grabbed onto Fuhai. Ah! Fuhai screamed in terror as he squirmed and tried to fight it, while the hand pulled him upwards. Don't fight back, Fu told him. Their body was trying to fight the removal process. Fu himself felt an intense urge to try and stop this, but he was able to fight that urge back. Just let it happen. The hand continued to pull through the ceiling, eventually Fuhai reaching that same elastic barrier that Fu had to go through. But that barrier did very little to stop the process, and Fuhai was pulled through it. And then, everything went white. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Immediately, he tried to move his limbs, and finally, he had success. His arms and legs moved as he wanted to. Thank goodness. Fu sighed. Then he looked around. He was in another room in the labs, strapped to a table, with what looked like some kind of giant claw hanging over him. Thought the process would be a bit more elegant, but if it works, Fu said. The door opened, and Izuku and Dr. Murasaki came in, alongside Ji and Kiba. Fu, are you okay? Can you move? Everything okay? Izuku said, running up to Fu to check over him. I'm fine, IBRAGHH. Fu immediately choked on his own intestines as Kiba hugged him. Don't ever worry me like that again, Kiba said, crushing his bones with her hug, as she tried not to cry tears of joy. That's a command from your queen. Fu rolled his eyes. I'll try my best, Your Majesty. The soul has been collected and is awaiting its new body. Dr. Murasaki explained. I suggest we hurry. I wouldn't want to be stuck as a bodiless soul. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX of the glass was a new body, an exact duplicate of Fu, lying down, strapped to a bed, in the center of a strange-looking machine. "Let the resurrection begin," Dr. Murasaki said with a huge smile on his face. The machine came to life as a mechanical claw came down, with glowing syringes attached to it. Stab. The claws stabbed into the new body and injected it with the glowing liquid before pulling back. Then a ring rose up from the floor around the body, containing many crystals. A few moments passed, and then, Fuhai came to life, his body gasping for air as it rapidly twitched. In the next moment, the rings powered up, energy cracking around it like lightning, before that energy shot into Fuhai. Suddenly, his skin turned pinkish, his hair turned back to black, and life returned to his eyes. The rings powered down, and a mechanical arm carrying a syringe came down, before stabbing the needle into the squirming boy's neck, quickly rendering him unconscious. All systems read positive. Dr. Murasaki turned to Izuku. "He is alive. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX eyes opened, and light flooded in. Oh! He hissed in pain, as his eyes tried to adjust to the light. Eventually, they did so. He could see his surroundings. He looked to be in some kind of super-advanced hospital room. The boy lay on a bed, with several wires attached to things on his body, and machines making beeping sounds. Finally awake, huh? Fuhai turned to the side and saw Fu sitting next to him, reading a book. Fuhai immediately went in and hugged him. Am I alive? Am I really alive? Is all that scary stuff over? Yup. Now you just gotta stay here for about a day to make sure everything's alright. Fu said. Why? Is something wrong? Am I gonna die again? Fuhai cried, suddenly on the verge of tears again. No, we just want to make sure, Fu assured him, giving him a gentle pat on the head. You're the first person to have fully come back from the dead, so they want to be through. Alright. Fuhai calmed down a bit. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr Something's wrong. I'm gonna die again. I think you're just hungry. Fu pointed out. This boy is gonna be a handful. This room is so big. He said in awe as he looked at his and Fu's new shared room. Well, it's a room for two, so yeah. Fu explained as he finally moved the last thing in. I told you he was super rich, didn't I? Anyway, what do you want to do now? The pool. Fu shook his head. No, I can't swim. You could learn. Fu suggested. But what if I drown while I'm learning? Fu gulped. I wouldn't let you drown. And I don't think you can drown. Fu said. Your regeneration would probably stop it. But still, I wouldn't let it happen in the first place. Fu shook his head. Nah, too scary. Fu sighed. Okay, what if we played some sports outside? I don't have sunscreen yet, Fu said. Why do you need sunscreen? It's not that hot. Fu pointed out. But the sun's still dangerous. Fu argued stubbornly. All right, so let's play some sports inside, Fu suggested. But what if I get hurt while playing? Fu said. You want to read some books? Fu relented. What if I get a paper cut? Fu asked fearfully. Fu facepalmed. We can read using tablets or something. Would that work for you? Okay, but can you read for me? I can't read yet. Fu said. Oh yeah, I taught myself to read after I died. Or I guess after you died. Fu said. Fine. Sit down, I'll find something to read. Ta xxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxxx Help me, Fu said, bowing before Fuku. He'd ambushed her in the kitchen before doing this. Huh? What? Help? Fuku was very taken aback by this. Help with what? Fuhai. He won't do anything. Fu groaned. He's too afraid of doing almost everything because he's worried he'll get hurt somehow. He just stays in his room, never comes out, and just watches TV and reads stuff on a tablet. If I don't do something, he'll spend the rest of his life stuck in his room, huddled in fear. Okay, why are you asking me? Fuku asked, although she already kinda knew the answer. Why not ask Izuku? Because he's busy, Fu said. And I'm not. Fuku pouted. I mean, I'm not as busy as him, but still fine. I'll help you. I don't think I can do anything about him being so afraid. I mean, he did actually die, but I can probably get him to go outside and stuff. Maybe. It's better than nothing. Fu shrugged. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Fuhai said, sounding nervous but ready. This is ridiculous. Fu sighed. The three of them were outside, finally, and ready for floating lessons. Except they weren't using the regular pool. They were using a small, inflatable pool. Can he even float in that? Fu asked Fuku, whispering so Fuhai couldn't hear him. Just barely. And more importantly, he can't drown in it. Fuku explained. Getting Fuhai this far had been a difficult endeavor. First, they had to lather him in sunscreen to even get him to go outside. As for teaching him to float, first Fuku convinced him that he had to learn to swim, telling him that if he did somehow end up in water, he'd definitely want that skill in order to survive, playing off his paranoia a bit. Of course, Fuhai was still hesitant to enter a body of water, so as a compromise, Fuku told him she'd teach him how to float first, and they'd use an inflatable pool so he couldn't possibly drown. Okay, let's do this, Fuku said, offering her hand. Fuhai eagerly took it, and with Fuku's guidance, stepped into the pool. All right, now just lay down and relax, Fuku advised, as Fuhai started laying on his back, letting the water hold him. Fuku could feel his grip on her hand tighten. Each time his body bobbed up and down in the water, she could feel him grow more tense. It's okay. The moving up and down thing is normal. Whatever you do, don't panic. Take deep breaths. You're surprisingly good at this. Fu noticed. Fuhai did as she instructed and breathed in and out, focusing on that instead of the water around him. Eventually, he found himself continuously floating, feeling as if the water was holding him up. I am doing it. Fuhai gasped. I'm actually floating. It's really not that impressive. Fu thought. Good job. Let's do it for a little longer, and then we can stop for today. Fuku told him. We just started? Fu pointed out. Yeah, but he's already done so much, and he must be really tired, Fuku said. Fuhai nodded. And since you did such a good job, I'll make you your favorite food as a reward, Fuku promised. Fuhai's eyes went wide, and a bit of drool came out of his mouth. Spaghetti and meatballs? Oh yeah, I forgot that was our favorite. Fu thought, briefly remembering their mother making it on a whim, and then regretting it as Fuhai asked for it almost every day afterward. Sure, now just stay calm, don't move too much, and keep floating, Fuku instructed. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX It was a day later, and the two of them were now in the kitchen. I get worried about that too. That's why I triple check it every time I come into the kitchen. Fuku explained. I check everything at least 3 times before I do any cooking. So you don't need to worry about it. Now, let's learn how to cook. Fuhai nodded. Fuku had told him that there may be a time when he might one day end up without anyone to cook for him. So he needed to learn how to cook for the sake of his survival. Thankfully, Fuku was fully capable of teaching him. Let's start with super simple stuff, Fuku said. Do you like mac and cheese? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX every once in a while. He hadn't expected her to get him to leave the room every day. Literally every day, she would get him to do something outside, under the guise of teaching him survival skills. Teaching him how to swim so he could survive in water. Teaching him how to cook so he could make his own food if no one else could. Teaching him how to play sports so he could increase his reaction speed. Although today's endeavor seemed far-fetched. Nah, no way. Fuhai refused. Camping is too scary. Forests are too scary. Honestly, Fu was starting to believe that Fuku was just testing how much she could convince him to do. Okay, I completely understand. Honestly, I wouldn't want to go by myself if it wasn't super special and important survival training. Fuku told him. Survival training? Fuhai repeated, sounding both curious and a bit scared. Oh, I have to hear this. Fu thought. So imagine this. You get kidnapped by villains, and they dump you in a forest to fend for yourself. Could you survive in a forest with nothing but your clothes? Fuku asked seriously. Can you learn to make fires to keep yourself warm and cook food? Can you tell what kind of plants are poisonous and what aren't? Can you? And no. Fuhai stuttered fearfully. Then you need to learn so you don't die in the wild, Fuhai. Fuku urged him. Wow. That was wow. Fu thought. He couldn't even begin to list the amount of logical issues there were in that. First of all, okay, I'll learn. Fuhai said. I'll learn how to survive. Fu had to fight hard not to facepalm. All right, I give up. I will never understand this level of paranoia. Guess I'll just roll with it. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. I thought you said you couldn't read? Fu asked as he saw Fuhai reading a bunch of books on his bed. Big Sister Ji was teaching me, and I learned it really easily, Fuhai explained. She said that maybe since I'm using your brain, maybe some of the information is still there, waiting to be unlocked. Yeah, sure, that might as well be a thing. Fu shrugged. Knock, knock, knock. Come in, Fu said. Izuku opened the door and entered the room with a box in his hands. Hey boys, I brought something for Fuhai. For me? Fuhai asked, giving the box a curious look. Izuku went over to Fuhai, set the box down, and opened it, revealing an Aegis robe. This is the same kind of cloak that I wear, to protect me. Then Izuku tapped his shoulder, and the illusion faded, revealing that Izuku was wearing that robe and was using a mind weaver to make it invisible. It'll protect you from most things. Falls, hits, whatever. Izuku explained before looking over to Fu. Fu, would you mind showing off its capabilities? Sure. Fu then shot out one of Kyosei's tendrils from his body and wrapped it around Izuku, picking him up. Kyosei then attempted to squeeze Izuku, only for the cloak to fight against his grip. Then Fu made some sharpened tendrils and tried to stab Izuku, only for the cloak to deflect them, the teeth closing in and protecting Izuku's face. See, Izuku said as Fu put him down. Cool. Fuhai gasped in awe, immediately taking the cloak from the box and putting it on as quickly as possible. As he finished putting it on, a mind weaver came out of the box and crawled onto his shoulder, turning the cloak invisible. That will allow you to still make your normal clothes visible, Izuku said. You can even turn yourself invisible if you ask for it. Cool. Fuhai repeated, sounding absolutely stoked, as he launched himself at Izuku, hugging him as hard as he could. Thank you, Dad. You're welcome, and make sure to thank Yami and Shiroku since they make these, Izuku said, hugging him back. Maybe now he'll be brave enough to go down the stairs without me having to carry him. Fu thought. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX think about that. Despite starting off as the same person, obviously, our personalities are quite different considering all that's happened to me and my unique situation. Fuhai is still younger than me and is very emotional. And by emotional, I mean fearful. Fuhai has a crippling fear of death that will keep him from doing anything that could have any chance of him getting hurt, which is pretty much everything. Fortunately, Fuku found a way around this. Fuhai is so afraid of death that he's willing to do things he normally wouldn't for the sake of learning survival skills. Because of this, he is extremely easy to manipulate. Thankfully, Fuku only has good intentions, but I fear what Yonda will do when she finds out about this. When it comes to our quirks, they should be similar. He hasn't gotten hurt, so we can't test it, but with some key differences. First of all, he's alive, so he can still feel pain. However, his body doesn't rot, so he doesn't need to consume as much meat as I do. He also doesn't smell. He also doesn't have the slightly enhanced strength that I had without Kyosei. However, the most important difference is one we're still not 100% sure about. Apparently, there is a chance that even if Fuhai's body is completely destroyed, his soul will just go back into my body if it's close by. This has, unfortunately, caused him to want to be as close to me as possible, 24/7. Oh joy! Izuku wished that he could go any extended amount of time without something insane happening, or at the very least the insane things could have the decency to not overlap. Having the Fuhai Resurrection event so close to the Concert Ninja Trap event was not good for his health. Seriously, what is my life? Izuku sighed, rubbing his temples as he laid back in his bed. Knock, knock, knock. Come in, Izuku said, sitting up to face whoever was coming in. Hi, Dad, Yami said as he entered, Sakio by his side. Can I break some laws? Now, any normal parent would answer, no, and then thoroughly admonish the child. But Izuku was not a normal parent, nor was he in any position to admonish someone for breaking the law. Which ones and why? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX stared into the abyss. The grim lake that Yami had made to make Seikyo had been made far deeper. So deep that Izuku couldn't see the bottom. And since it wasn't full of grim goop, it was currently just a massive hole in the ground. PLAP. Although it appeared that wouldn't be the case for very long. Up above, a bird flew over the hole, before spitting out grim goop into the abyss. The bird then flew down towards them, before landing right in front of Izuku. Then the bird's form suddenly changed, turning into something like a grim pelican, with a mind weaver on its head. These are couriers, Yami explained. They can gather negative emotion, turn it into goop like me, and then spit it out. I can also use the negative energy they use to increase my own power during battle, Seikyo explained. Father wishes to scatter these birds across the city to gather negativity instead of using those crystals. Mind weavers make them look like normal birds, so no one notices. Yami continued. And if someone finds out? Puff. Suddenly the courier exploded, before turning into black smoke. No proof. Yami finished. I see. You've thought this through. Izuku said, thinking about the notion. Of course, doing something like this would be illegal, but it's not like anyone could prove anything. All right, I'll allow it. Although I'd like you to keep the amount of these you send out very limited. Make sure not too many of them are in the same place. Understood. Yes, Dad/Grandpa. Said both of them. By the way, what do you intend to do with this much negative energy? Izuku asked as he stared back into the abyss. Yami shrugged. Make grim. Gather energy. In case of emergency. Fair enough. We'll never know when we might need it. Izuku said. Now that I think about it, these things would also take energy away from sin. So all around, nothing but benefits. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Also, why are you in my room? Lou asked as he looked up from his tablet. Well, when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. G pointed out. You can barely shoot really big lasers without collapsing, and yet you were able to jump not just from one country to another, but hundreds of years into the future. And you survived. Sure, you were going to die had we not helped you, but the fact that you survived long enough for us to help you, or rather the fact that you didn't instantly die, heck, the fact that your body held up long enough to do that at all, just doesn't make any sense. Even taking the Chaos Emerald into account, your body simply shouldn't have been able to do that. Is there a point to this? Lou asked, rolling his eyes. Yes, I believe I understand how you did it. G said excitedly. You see, I was reading about how when moving at different speeds can alter the flow of time, and I found it very interesting how one can exist in a flow of time separate from the norm. Then I thought of you. Do you recall your ability to quote-unquote slow down time? Yeah. What? Lou asked, getting a tiny bit more interested. Well, again, that ability doesn't make any sense. G pointed out. Your body shouldn't be able to handle that much power. However, what if you weren't actually slowing down time, but altering your personal flow of time, altering the very space you exist in? So for everyone else, it looks like you're moving faster, and for you, it looks like everyone else is slower. Can you say that in less words? Lou asked. You altered space to make yourself move through time faster. G summarized. Oh, wouldn't that also need a crazy amount of power to work? Lou asked. Yes, which is why you couldn't keep it up for long, G explained. But altering space for just you would use much less energy than slowing down time everywhere in the universe. I guess. But what does that have to do with how we time traveled? Lou inquired. My theory is that instead of catapulting yourself through time, You simply moved you and Maria into some kind of different dimension or space, where time moved very differently. G mused. Basically, less than a second in that place was hundreds of years in our time. And the only reason you got out was because our Chaos Emerald pulled you out. Okay, I'm gonna need you to simplify that again, Lu told her bluntly. G sighed, pulled out a journal, and started drawing. Okay, imagine time in our world as a river, moving forward at a certain speed. You managed to move to a different river that was next to this one, that was moving much, much faster. Then after moving forward enough, our Chaos Emerald contacted yours and got it to move you back to our river. For you, it was less than a second, but because that river was traveling so much faster, by the time you got back to this river, you were much further down the stream. Nope. Still don't get it. Lu said honestly. G rubbed the bridge of her nose in frustration. Imagine there is a room where time moves differently. Spending 1 second in that room, and hundreds of years will have passed in the rest of the world. When you used your power, you went into that room, and the 2 Chaos Emeralds pulled you out. All right, I think I get it, Lu said after thinking about it for a while. Kinda. Does that mean I can go into a room that makes time go backward? While I can't say that's impossible, it is highly unlikely, G answered. Time in our world only flows forward, and while bending space can change how fast it moves, there's never been any way to make it move backward. But take all of this with a grain of salt. I'm not a scientist, yet, and all of this is just a theory. I would suggest we visit the lab and have this theory tested. It might increase your proficiency with time-space manipulation. I'm sure. Why not? Lu said, as he finally got up from his bed and grabbed her hand. To the lab then. Scope. So what do you think about the whole clone thing? Nise asked. She managed to catch Fu in the cafeteria just finishing a meal and took the opportunity to sate her curiosity. Trying not to, Fu said as he gulped down his last bit of meat. But I guess I can't do that forever. Honestly, I don't know what to think about. Half of my memories are fake, or don't belong to me, or whatever. But what would I be without those memories? Would I be the same person? Completely different? Because I'm already really different. But would I be more different? What does this make me? So you don't know what to think of it. Nise sighed, looking a bit crestfallen. Why are you so disappointed? Fu realized what was going on here. You do realize you're not a clone, right? Yeah, but I'm not. The real me either, Nise said, looking down at herself. But I feel real, and the real me was a murderer? So, how am I supposed to take that? What do I do, Dash? And then Nise's eyes glazed over. Oh, it's you again. Fu recognized, as suddenly Nise's expression turned sharp. Hello, Kira. Yes. Hi. Can you do me a favor and get that whinging little shit to stop complaining? Kira said, sounding intensely annoyed. Yeah. How dare she be upset that she doesn't know who she is and she's stuck in the same body as a former assassin, Fu said, rolling his eyes. Honest, the nerve of that girl. Also, the fact that you can take over her body at any time is pretty concerning. Kira rolled her own eyes in response. I have no intention of taking over the body unless I have to. This is the exception, and it's only because she won't stop complaining. And why is that? Fu asked. If you can take over at any point, why are you almost never around? Why let Nise take control at all? Have you ever thought that maybe I don't want to be in control? Kira glared. I just want to fall asleep and never wake up. Nise can have the body, so long as she doesn't put us in danger and doesn't waste our life doing stupid crap that makes no one happy. So could you just tell her to stop caring about our stupid past? That's not going to work. Fu pointed out. She needs closure. And that's something the two of you need to work on. Also, I'm pretty sure that just trying to vanish into your own mind is a bit unhealthy. Ugh, you just don't get it. Kira facepalmed. Why do I even bother? Then Kira froze for a second, before her expression changed, becoming confused, and then panicked. Oh no, did she take control? Did she kill anyone? Nah, she doesn't seem to do that anymore, Fu said. And even if she wanted to, the only person around here is me. And we both know how that went. Splush. And then Fu's head exploded. I didn't do that. Nise stuttered. I wonder if she realizes she's only making things worse. Fu thought as he regrew his head. Lu and Seikyo stared down each other, standing in the remains of a ruined city, which was actually the sim room. You ready? Lu asked, folding his arms and staring at Seikyo confidently. Are you? You seem rather smug, considering you're facing an immortal, which I don't see why you should be. Sakyo said, my power grows every day. Lee's body then exploded with a red aura. Even you won't be a threat to me for much longer. Very well then. Sakyo chuckled. Let us begin. Scope. Immediately, Lu teleported away, leaving Sakyo on high alert. Looking around for Lu. After a while of just nothing, she started getting a bit frustrated. You know, running your mouth like that only to run away like a coward is rather embarrassing. Scope. Stab. Sakyo didn't even have time to react to Lu teleporting behind her before he stabbed her through the back with a chaos lance. Scope. Kaboom. Lu teleported away as the lance exploded inside Sakyo, utterly obliterating her body in a big explosion. Meanwhile, Lu had teleported onto what remained of a large building, looking down at the smoking crater where dark energy swelled. Looks like I destroyed her body. Good, that means I can move on to the next part. Lu raised his hand up in front of him and closed his eyes. Chaos wave. A very weak wave of chaos energy shot out of his hand, encompassing the area in front of him and continuing on for a little while before coming back at him. Once the energy went back into his body, Lu felt an intense headache as the energy painted a detailed picture of the world in front of him, including revealing the location of the several couriers that were feeding Sakyo energy. Chaos wave was essentially a form of sonar. He'd send out a wave of energy in front of him that was so weak it couldn't be seen, felt, or heard by most people. That energy would move over an area before coming back to Lu after a certain point. Once it came back, the energy would paint a complete picture of everything in front of him that the energy touched, including things that were invisible or disguised by illusions. It was a very useful move, and one he was glad G had helped him come up with. However, it did have a few very notable drawbacks. First of all, he had to stay completely still for the duration of the process, and he needed to have his eyes closed the whole time. Otherwise, he'd suffer from complete sensory overload. And even with his eye closed, the information being forced into his brain still hurts quite a bit. In other words, it left him a sitting duck for about half a minute. Fortunately, with Sakyo's body still forming, he had some time. Lu formed some chaos spears and took a second to focus. Homing chaos spears. Lee's spears shot out, curving through the air towards their targets, Lu awkwardly guiding them along. BAW. 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 The spears impaled the dark birds, destroying all the ones he detected in a matter of seconds. All right, now for the ones on the other side, Lu said, turning around and once again using Chaos Wave before forming more spears. Homing Chaos Spears. BA. Babakok. Once again the Grim were destroyed, leaving naught but dark smoke in the wind. Okay, that should be most of them, Lu said, rubbing his temples to try and alleviate his headache. There might be one or two more that I missed, so let's dash. Kaboom. Suddenly a bolt of dark energy blasted at him from below, blowing up the rooftop he was on and sending him flying. Act! Lu hissed in pain as he was hurled into the air. Suddenly his body was encompassed by a dark aura, and he was slammed into the ground. Slam. 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 Psycho had recovered and was now using her telekinesis to lift Lu up and slam him down. Squoop. That was until Lu teleported out of her attack, once again vanishing from sight. Don't think I'll fall for the same trick twice, Sakyo said, forming a strong barrier around her body. Squoop. Slam. Suddenly Lu teleported above her, with a large piece of a destroyed building. The ruble fell on top of her, squishing half her body and trapping the rest of her. Squoop. 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 Lu continued to teleport large pieces of rubble onto Sakyo, trapping her further underneath a massive, heavy pile of concrete and metal. Ugh. Lu fell to one knee beside the massive pile of rubble. Teleporting such large objects put a heavy strain on his body. His rings were once again glowing and hot as he stained them as well. I hope this works. Meanwhile, underneath all the rubble, Sakyo struggled. She tried to use her telekinesis to move some of the rubble, but it was too heavy. She could try to blast her way out, but she lacked the power to do so without leaving herself completely squashed. And she couldn't regenerate if something was occupying the space her body was supposed to be in. Lu had destroyed most of her couriers, meaning he'd weakened her quite a bit. Both the house and the abyss were too far for her to draw from. so the only place she could seek power from was the lab, which was just close enough. Unfortunately, the negative energy from there just wasn't enough to get her out of this. In other words, she'd lost. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX moves. The two of them headed to Giza, who had been watching the whole thing from the control room. "Very well done, Lo," Giza praised, looking down at the two kids. Lo looked ridiculously smug, while Psycho looked far more sullen. "Your strategy was well thought out, and your new techniques were impressive," Giza continued. "There was only one notable flaw in your plan." "What?" Lu asked, turning from smug to skeptical. "Let's say that Psycho went on the defensive before you could destroy her body. How would you have handled that?" Giza asked. "You would have been left using up a lot of energy to try and destroy her body, and even if you eventually succeeded, you may have been too worn out to fully execute your plan. Which brings me to you, Psycho." Giza shook his head. "Your regeneration has caused you to grow careless. While it is a powerful ability, it does not guarantee victory. As this battle has shown, defeat comes in many forms. When your opponent hides themselves, you should first make sure you're not vulnerable to attack. Then ask yourself, why is your opponent hiding? Are they trying to escape? Are they waiting for something? Or are they trying to ambush you? Then after you've determined the most likely course of action, decide your response. The worst thing you can do is stand out in the open, waiting for them to attack you." "It does sound really stupid when you say it," Sakio said, blushing with embarrassment. "If you want an example of what to do when an opponent uses stealth, perhaps you should watch Himiko and Mu's battle," Giza said. "It should be starting now. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX the cloth he was hiding under. The two had set the sim room to look like an abandoned warehouse, with dim lighting and shadows everywhere. Lots of boxes, machines, and the like to hide behind, and catwalks hanging above them. "Let's go then," Himiko said, giving him a crazed smile. Mu threw off the sheet, vanishing using his quirk before Himiko could see him. Himiko then ran behind one of the crates, with Mu following to try and ambush her. But as soon as he turned the corner of the crate, he found that Himiko had vanished. He started frantically looking around for her, but it was no use. He'd lost her. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX but long enough that he knew he wasn't going to win like this. He hadn't managed to get even a glimpse of Himiko, and if he kept this up, he was going to use up all of the time he had spent in his dimension, and if that happened, Himiko would win without a doubt. That meant he had to be a bit more daring and lure her out. Mu exited his dimension and put his back up against a crate, making sure she couldn't attack him from behind. He had to keep an eye out on both his sides and his front, lest he be blindsided. Ding! Suddenly Mu felt something fall on his head, and he immediately panicked, looking up, scared that Himiko would attack from above, only to find nothing. And before he could even tilt his head down, he felt a wooden knife being pressed against his throat. He looked to the side and saw Himiko looking at him with a smug grin. "I win." It took a second, but Mu realized what had happened. Himiko had hidden on the other side of the crate, threw one of her wooden knives over it to distract him, and then quickly went in for the finishing blow. Mu pouted. "You're way too good at this." XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX was literally not a fight. It was Himiko running around trying to avoid Mu, and Mu trying to find her, neither of whom they could see. Then it just ended abruptly. He probably would have fallen asleep if Giza hadn't kept slapping him awake any time he started to drift off. Not all confrontations are filled with excitement, Giza explained. But this battle was a good display of how to deal with stealth. Firstly, when Himiko saw Mu vanish, her strategy was to leave his sight as well. Then, since she couldn't see him at all, she made sure to stay hidden in places that he couldn't see as well, namely using shadows and high-up places. Once Mu realizes his current tactic isn't going to work, he attempts to lure out his opponent while covering one of his blind spots. His issue, however, was that he didn't consider that Himiko might attack him from above. In fairness, it would have been extremely difficult for her to attack directly from above, but Himiko utilized this in a brilliant way, using her opponent's tension against him. distracting him by making him think she was attacking from an unforeseen direction before going for the finishing maneuver. Yeah, she is too good at this, La noted. In that position, Mu's best option would have been to immediately vanish back into his dimension as soon as he realized he was under attack and attempt to counterattack, Giza said. However, that would require reflexes and skill that can only be built through experience. So I can hardly blame him for his loss there. Regardless, Seikyo, do you understand what you did wrong during your fight? Yes, sir. Seikyo nodded attentively. Very good, Giza said. You two are dismissed. Stay sharp and enjoy your day. Hello, people of the world, and welcome to Omni Hour, Kiba said into a camera. Her, Ken, and Amai were all sitting around a round table, in front of the camera, with Fu and Shiroku recording them. Many of you have probably been looking forward to the next project from Omni Games. Well, today you can find out all about it. Ken said confidently. I present you. Foundation Feud. The screen changed, showing the box art for the game, depicting various members of the Midoriya Foundation clashing with each other before the screen went back to the three. Here, you'll be able to play as many members of our wondrous family in an action-packed fighting game. Kiba said eagerly. And even if you're not a fan of them, the gameplay is expertly crafted with a wide variety of features that'll keep you hooked. Amai said, we've all worked really, really hard on this, and today we're finally going to show you everything. From general gameplay mechanics, down to specific characters and assists. Let's get started. General mechanics. The screen switched to show the game at the beginning of a match, with Izuku wielding his staff against Fu. Foundation Feud is a one-on-one, 2D fighting game, Amai explained. Well, technically one-on-one. Both characters will have one assist character. As you can see on the top of the screen right below the health bar, Mr. Midoriya has Eri helping him, and Fu has K as an assist, but more about that later. Most matches will have a 10-minute time limit, and when the time ends, whoever has the lowest health loses, Kibo explained. If both characters have the exact same amount of health, it's a draw, although some characters can affect the timer. But we'll get to that later as well. This game works largely the same as most other fighting games, Amai explained. Hold back to block, press O for light attacks, triangle for medium attacks, and X for heavy attacks, or whatever equivalents you have for those on other controllers. And by making quarter circle and back quarter circle inputs, can change moves into special moves. Using the left back bumper, you can summon your assist. All assists have 3 moves: normal input, back input, and forward input moves. Ken explained. And using the right back bumper, you can use your super moves. Kiba explained. The flashy moves that can really change the tide of battle. But to do these moves, you need to build up your Midori meter. Amai continued. You can see both characters' meters at the bottom of the screen. Each time you do a move, you build up a meter, and each meter can go up 9 levels. Depending on how much meter you have, the more moves you'll have access to. And if you get up to 5 meters, you can unleash your ultimate attack. You can also use the top right bumper to meter burn certain moves and increase their power, speed, range, or something else, depending on the move. And lastly, we have the parry, which can be used with the upper left bumper, Kiba explained. By parrying certain attacks at just the right time, you can turn an opponent's advantage state into a disadvantage or neutral state, Amai said. Or, in simpler terms, use it, and you can get your opponent off of you and start attacking them. That's all for the general mechanics. Now let's get into the exciting parts. Kiba smiled. The characters. We can't go into full detail because that would take forever, so we'll just talk about the important parts, Ken said. Starting with Dash. Izuku Midoriya. Mr. Midoriya is practical, but not all too flashy, Amai explained. He wields a staff. In-game, Izuku did a few moves with his staff. Some swings, some pokes, etc. And a gun. Amai continued. Bang bang bang. In-game, Izuku pulled out a gun and shot Fu with a few bullets. Using these tools, Mr. Midoriya is great at mid-ranged combat and keeping foes back, Amai said. He may be plain, but he's not weak. That's Mr. Midoriya in a nutshell. Lady Kiba and Hinata. The Player 1 character changed to Kiba, holding Hinata in her sword form. My turn. Kiba jumped in. In this game, I'm what Amai calls a rushdown character, which means I need to be attacking the foe as much as possible. And why is that? Well, please direct your attention to the second meter above the Midori meter. That is my blood meter. It has 3 states: full, hungry, and starving. And which state you are in heavily affects my character. Watch. Suddenly the screen split into 3, showing Kiba in starving mode, hungry mode, and full mode all at the same time. All 3 Kibas did a short combo on Fu. Starving mode Kiba did absolutely pitiful damage. Hungry mode Kiba did a good chunk of damage. And full mode Kiba did a huge chunk of damage. Next, Fu did a short combo on her. Starving mode Kiba took a ton of damage. Hungry mode Kiba took a fair amount of damage. And full mode Kiba took significantly less. Next, each Kiba did a special move, where they made spikes made of shadows rise from the ground. Starving mode Kiba only made 1 spike come out right in front of her. Hungry mode Kiba made many spikes covering half of the ground. And full mode Kiba made spikes that completely covered the ground. Even my parry is heavily affected by the blood meter. Kiba continued. In starving mode, my parry is very slow and difficult to use. In hungry mode, it's rather average. However, once in full mode, I unlocked the Blackwing parry. On screen, Fu attacked her with a Kyodon claw, and Kiba parried it with a Batwing. Then, Fu shot one of his bones at her using his arm crossbow, and Kiba Batwing parried it, right back at Fu. That's right, not only is the range of the parry extended, but it can also reflect projectiles right back from whence they came. Kiba shouted. Lastly, the super moves I can use all come back to the blood meter. If I'm in starvation mode, I can't use any of them. If I'm in hungry mode, I can use most of them. And if I'm in full mode, I can use my ultimate. Black Sun devours hope. On screen, Kiba suddenly burst with power, rushed forward with her wings, and struck Fu with her sword. Then a cutscene is initiated. Kiba flew into the air with her bat wings and smiled, as shadows rose up all around her, gathering behind her. Black Sunrise. Obey your queen, and devour my enemies. The shadows gathered into a giant black ball that blocked out the sun. Then serpent-like dragon heads came out of the black sun, rushed at Fu, and bit down on him, before bringing him back into the black sun, which grew a giant dragon head that completely swallowed Fu. And then it all exploded. Cut back to normal gameplay. Fu is on the ground, with most of his health gone. Amazing, isn't it? And it's one of the most damaging attacks in the entire game. Kiba said proudly. And no, this isn't biased. It's just that since you have to have 5 levels of meter and be in full mode, and you have to land it, so it's balanced. Speaking of balance, I'm sure you understand by now that the blood meter is very important. But there's still one more thing I should show you. Back to gameplay. In-game, Kiba did a bunch of basic sword swipes on nothing, decreasing her blood meter with each swipe until it hit 0. Aha! Kiba screamed as she fell to her knees. KO! Shouted the announcer. That's right, if the blood meter hits 0, you instantly lose. Kiba said. So, how exactly do you manage this all-important meter? Simple. Every time you hit the opponent, your blood meter increases. If they're blocking, it increases less. The meter will decrease on its own, but it'll go down faster every time you attack, or if you are attacked. How much it goes down depends on the power of the moves you're using or getting hit by. A simple mechanic, but one of deadly importance, Amai said. Feed on your enemies, and drink up victory, as Kiba Midoriya, Fu and Kyosei. Now you've probably noticed by now, the numbers on health bars. Ken pointed out. That's because each character has a different amount of health, and Fu has the most. Because it was either this or we added healing moves, and Amai hated that idea. Fu is a zoner, who uses his tendrils and bones to keep people on the other side of the screen. Amai jumped in. Meanwhile, in the game, Fu was fighting Kiba, who was attempting to approach him. But he hit her with a tendril to knock her back, before sending another tendril through the ground to keep hitting her. Once Kiba got up, Fu hit her with a bone crossbow, then used it again, and the meter burned it so multiple shots sprayed across the screen. Of course, Fu is very weak when you actually do get up close. Amai continued, showing Fu getting beat up as soon as Kiba got close. So he has a few tools to help with that. None more powerful than his parry explosion. Back to the game. Kiba got close and attempted to hit Fu with his sword, only for Fu to land a parry, and then explode. Fu then reformed almost instantly on the other side of the screen. Although some of his health was gone, a bar of meter had been used. Fu can burn 1 bar of meter on his parry, and trigger the parry explosion, Amai explained. Instantly teleport you to the other side of the screen, although it does take some of your health. So only use it if you think your opponent will do more damage than the move. But none of that is the coolest part of Fu's move set, Kiba added. That comes when you activate his ultimate. Back with the gameplay, Fu suddenly burst with power like Kiba did before as a cutscene played. You asked for it, Kiba. In-game, Fu said as he pulled out a vial of might concentrate and gulped it down as Kyodon covered his body completely. Rah-hai. Fu's body morphed into a muscle-bound monster with razor-sharp teeth. Then cut back to gameplay, but now Fu was in this larger form. Behold Super Fu, Kiba said. Once Fu transforms, he stays like this for the rest of the match and gains tremendous power, turning into a rush-down character. In-game, Super Fu charged at Kiba and started attacking Kiba with his claws, dealing huge amounts of damage. However, as Fu stays in this form, his health will go down over time. Kiba continued. So if you're playing against him, it's best to keep him far away. Ironic, huh? Make sure to adapt your playstyle and use your brain to defeat your opponents with Fu. Sanson. Now we have everyone's favorite liquid, Sanson. Ken started. Sanson is a grappler who wants to get as close as possible and grab her opponents, knocking them around for maximum damage. In-game, Sanson charged at Fu. Fu tried to shoot her with a bone projectile, but Sanson turned into a puddle, slid under the projectile, and Fu appeared on the other side of him, before grabbing Fu, squeezing him, and slamming him into the wall of the stage, and then continuing the combo. Normally, Sanson is immune to most attacks, which we obviously couldn't put in the game, but that doesn't mean it's easy to damage her. Ken continued. In the game, Sanson started moving around the screen, zipping all around, up and down, left and right, using special moves to bounce around the sides of the screen and move under attacks. Sanson is just hard to control, as she is to hit. If you can find a way to control her movement, you can give your opponent the slip. Amai said. Shiruku. Everyone's favorite fashion-forward spider girl joins the battle as a trapper, Kiba said, spreading her webs and spiders all over the screen. Speaking of webs, let's talk about that. In-game, Shiruku then shot a web projectile at Fu, which, when it hit, immediately wrapped Fu up in a web cocoon. This is the web-wrapped state. Whenever you make contact with Shiruku's webs, you'll be trapped in a web cocoon for 3 seconds. More than enough time for Shiruku to start a proper combo on you. Kiba said. What's more, Shiruku doesn't even need to hit you with the webs directly. Back in game, Shiruku jumped up and then shot one of her webs downwards towards Fu. The web projectile landed on the ground in front of him, but instead of just vanishing when it hit the ground, it left a web on the ground. Shiruku then jumped up again and shot a web through the air, hitting the wall and leaving a web on the side of it. As you can see, when Shiruku shoots a web and it hits anything but the opponent, it will leave a web on that surface, Amai explained. And if you touch those webs, in-game, Fu stepped over the web and was immediately wrapped in a web trap. You get stuck in a web trap. Amai continued. This can be used to keep opponents from approaching you, setting up combos, or even extending them. In-game, Fu was trapped in the web, and Shiruku shot a web line, reeling him in before doing a combo on him, and then throwing him at the wall towards the other web, trapping him once again, leading him into another, shorter combo. But she can do more than just web up her opponents. Let's not forget she is also the Queen of Spiders, Kiba added. Not as impressive as the Queen of Eternal Darkness, but still formidable. Back in the game, Shiruku used a special move and sent out a small army of spiders that moved across the ground, eventually hitting Fu, causing him to become covered in spiders, doing small bits of damage to him each second. When a spider attack hits you, you'll be covered in spiders, biting down and doing damage over time, Amai explained. So as you can see, her damage potential is insane. But she is not without weaknesses. Her spiders will fall off if she or her opponent gets hit, and she can only have 3 web traps at a time. Can you surround and overwhelm your opponents? Kiba asked. If so, then you'll thrive playing as Shiruku. Why am I? Yami is the commander of an army of Grimm, and as such he brings that army into battle with him here as well, Kiba said. In-game, Yami stood in battle, with 2 chameleon Grimm on his arms. He summoned a Beowulf to rush at his opponent. Then he started a combo from the other side of the screen, using his licker's long tongues as whips and having various other Grimm jump in. Next, he started a combo by having a griffin fly in from behind and hit the opponent. Then he summoned a creep from underground to attack them. Yami relies on his Grimm to attack, using them to keep away his opponent and deal damage. Amai said, but there is one thing you should keep an eye on. You see that meter above the Midori meter? That's the misery meter. Much like Kiba's blood bar, the higher the meter, the better. It has 3 states: low, medium, and high. As the bar fills, you'll be able to summon stronger Grimm to come to your aid. Once again, the screen split in 3, showing Yamis with low, medium, and high misery meters. All 3 summoned a Grimm to rush towards the opponent and hit them. Low Yami summoned a Beowulf, medium Yami summoned a Borbitusk, and high Yami summoned a Berinjal. Next, all of them summoned a flying Grimm to attack them from behind. Low Yami summoned a Griffin, medium Yami summoned a Manticore, and high Yami summoned a Wyvern. Lastly, each Yami summoned something from the ground to rise up and attack his opponent. Low Yami summoned a Creep, medium Yami summoned a Sentinel, and high Yami summoned a Blindworm. And of course, the damage increased with each stage. So how do you fill this bar? Well, it goes up by itself. Ken said, the longer the fight goes on, the more the meter fills. So if you want to win, zone like your life depends on it. Can you get past the snarling beast? Or will you succumb to the army of darkness? Kiba asked. Face Yami in battle and find out. Netsu. For the most part, Netsu is your standard Shoto. Good at any range, but best at mid-range. But he does have one unique feature to him. Amai said, in-game, Netsu used a special move and burst himself toward Fu, and started attacking while Fu blocked. And despite not doing that much, he built up a bar and a half of meter. Now you might have noticed that he built up a lot of meter, Amai said. That's because Netsu's all about building up meter. Not only to use super moves, but because his ultimate requires a lot of meter. At first, your ultimate is called heating up. In-game, Netsu suddenly burst with power. Ha-ah-ya. As he screamed, his flames turned blue, and then it was over. Heating up is an install that increases the attack power of everything Netsu's does. Amai continued, you can do it twice, going from normal flames to blue flames to white flames. Ha-ya. Once again, Netsu activated his ultimate, turning from blue to white. And once the conditions are met, you can activate his true ultimate move. Kiba jumped in. White. Hot. Hell. Back in the game, Netsu burst with power once more, as a short cutscene of Netsu charging his energy and bringing his hands together. You better dodge this one. White. Hot. Hell. A massive screen-filling blast of white fire flew at Fu, and when it hit him, another cutscene played, of the blast flying forward, completely engulfing everything around it, and destroying a good chunk of the stage. When the blast faded, the camera stayed on the destruction that the attack left behind. KO, the announcer shouted. That's right, this move is an instant KO, as it should be, considering you have to build up 15 bars of meter and hit the opponent. Kiba said, but even without using this, White Netsu's damage makes getting to that stage more than worth it. Stoke the flames of victory with Netsu. Ken and Nara. Ugh, did you have to lump me and her into the same part? Ken groaned. We went over this, Ken. Kiba sighed. You and Nara don't exactly have much to talk about. You both just shift forms when you do attacks. We could end the segment right there. I still say each one of my forms should have had their own move set. Ken argued. And I can't even switch between forms in real life. Meanwhile, as they were arguing, the footage of Ken and Nara's gameplay continued to go on as if they were following the script. Ken, people hate it when a bunch of slots in a fighting game are taken up by the same person, even if it does make sense, Amai said. And this is just much cooler. Also, we're taking, what is it called, liberties? Yeah, that's right. We're taking liberties with what our quirks can do. I can't make shadows explode, but there's no chance I'm taking that out of my ultimate. Kiba added, just be satisfied with what you have. Your character's cool enough, you don't need to have 9 visions of yourself. Well, Ken heard Fu talking, although the audience could not because he lacked a microphone. What do you mean this section is over? What do you mean the footage has been running this whole time? Well, if that's the case, not much point going over it, Kiba said. Let's move on then. Damn it, Ken swore. Sheena. Moving on. Sheena is a rushdown character made to end fights fast. Amai said, which is good, because you might have noticed something. In-game, Sheena was now facing Fu. But the timer was set to 9 minutes instead of 10. When you pick Sheena and start a fight, the timer will be reduced by 1 minute, Amai said. And the timer reaches 0. Sheena will be the one to lose no matter what. Unless both characters are Sheena, then it goes back to the default system. Sheena also has a very unique feature with her special moves, Kiba said. Each time Sheena hits you with a special move, depending on the move, it will kill one of your abilities. In-game, Sheena cut the ground, causing Fu to trip, slip towards her, and then Sheena unleashed another slash at him. And now he can't attack, Kiba said. That's right, Sheena's special move can disable things like attacking, guarding, parrying, using assists, and using specials or supers. Fortunately, it only lasts for 9 seconds. And Sheena has one last thing, Ken added. Here is what happens when you reach 9 seconds left in the match. In-game, the clock continued to tick down as normal until it reached 9 seconds. Raw! Sheena cried as suddenly she started glowing red, and the sky turned dark. Then Sheena ran forward and hit Fu once. Ow wow! Fu cried sarcastically as he fell to the ground. KO! The announcer shouted. When the timer goes down to 9 seconds, Sheena enters death cry mode, Amai explained. In death cry mode, all of her attacks become instant kills. You can still block them, but if she lands a successful hit, you're done. Take up the scythe and become the master of death, as Sheena, Kiba added. Yaba G and Inu. Moving on to our resident triple threat. Kiba continued. Yaba, G, and Inu fight as one, as they normally do. You can play as whatever sibling you want, but their moveset stays the same. The triplets have the special power to summon one another for their special attacks, Amai said. In the game, Yaba was facing up against Fu, and suddenly Inu jumped in and unleashed a flamethrower attack from center screen that hit Fu and left him stunned until the attack was done. Next, G appeared from behind Fu and grabbed him, holding him still. Lastly, G jumped down from the ceiling, attacking Fu with her claws from above, but he blocked that. But Yaba meter burned the move, and Inu came rushing in on all fours and hit Fu low, landing the attack. And of course, you can attack freely while the other girls are out, Amai said. Once again, Yaba summoned Inu for the flamethrower attack. Fu blocked it this time, but Yaba rushed forward, through the flames, jumped over Fu, and hit him from behind. Of course, to balance this, there are a few downsides, Kiba said. First, you can only use one special move at a time. Second, each girl has a cooldown after being summoned. You can see this on the top of the screen next to the assist. You can also use half of your meter to reduce the cooldown, but you might want to save that meter for your ultimate, which requires all 9 bars of meter. But you most likely find the effect to be worth it. Back in game, suddenly Yaba burst with power as a cutscene played. Suddenly, all the girls huddled together. You ready? Yaba shouted as she touched her collar. Time to end this, G added as she did the same. Now let's do this, Inu said as she also touched her collar. Light glowed from their collars, and when the light died down, the fused Cerberus stood in their place. This is the part where you lose, Cerberus shouted, as the cutscene ended and regular gameplay resumed, but with Cerberus there instead of Yaba. Their ultimate is called Cerberus Unite, and it allows them to turn into Cerberus for the rest of the match, Amai said. As Cerberus, you no longer have access to the other 2 girls, and instead you become a pure rushdown monster. In-game, Cerberus rushed at Fu with great speed, dragging him into a combo that did a lot of damage, before finishing with a super move, where she unleashed a wave of blue fire from her mouth. Be as one, hunt your opponents down with the Cerberus sisters, and bite down on victory, Kiba said. Ellie, I hope you like teleporting because with Lu that's his bread and butter, Amai said. You got regular teleports. In-game, Lu quickly teleported in front of Fu. Aerial teleports. Amai continued. Lu teleported again, this time teleporting above Fu and attacking him with his Chaos Jet boots. Counter teleports, Amai said. Lu crossed his arms, and Fu sent out a tendril to attack him, and when it reached him, Lu teleported behind Fu and kicked him. Teleport grabs, Amai added. Fu was guarding, but Lu teleported in front of him and grabbed him, before teleporting both of them off-screen for a second, Then Lu teleported back down by himself, and Fu fell to the ground from off-screen, dealing damage to him. Teleport parries. Amai went on. Fu had Lu cornered and in a combo, but Lu found an opening, did his parry, and teleported to the other side of the stage, and then unleashed a chaos spear at Fu. And so on. Kiba finished. Prepare to be everywhere and nowhere at once. As Lu. Kano. Now it's time for the high-flying fashionista, Kano. Kiba continued. If you look on screen, you'll see Kano's special feature. On screen, Kano was facing off against Fu, but her feet weren't touching the ground. Then she started moving around, flying through the air freely back and forth. That's right, Kano can fly around the screen as she pleases, not bound by gravity. Kiba continued. And from the sky, she will try to dive down and take hold of her enemies. Back on screen, Kano dive-bombed Fu, grabbed him, and then started sucking his blood with her mosquito needle before lifting him up into the air and throwing him. Next, she zoomed off the left side of the screen before zooming back on screen from the right side, behind Fu, grabbing him and draining his blood once more. But she has more than melee attacks. She commands swarms to attack her enemies and cover the screen. Kiba continued. Back in game, Kano was up in the air and snapped her fingers, summoning a swarm of mosquitoes that traveled from the right side of the screen towards the left, eventually reaching Fu, and then swarming him, keeping him from moving. Next, Kano snapped her fingers again, and a swarm of mosquitoes formed directly under her, staying there. Fu walked into it, and was once again swarmed by the mosquitoes. Command your insect army, and drain your opponents dry, as Kano, Kiba said. Seikyo. Negativity is ever present on the battlefield, and so are Seikyo's attacks, Kiba said. In the game, Seikyo started throwing out attacks towards Fu, picking him up with telekinesis, making him explode, then doing a combo from a distance. Next, she shot a beam made of dark energy at him, before once again doing a combo. To be perfectly honest, Seikyo doesn't have any gimmicks or much to talk about. She's just a regular zoner, Amai admitted. So here is some gameplay. This time Fu was approaching Seikyo, but Seikyo batted him away with an energy sword before doing another combo. Then Fu had Seikyo in a combo, but Seikyo parried one of the attacks before sending a clone of herself to grab him. Lastly, Seikyo activated one of her super moves, forming a bow and firing a dark energy arrow. The arrow hit Fu, and even though he was blocking, it broke his guard and hit him normally. Master the dark energy and destroy your opponents from a distance, as Seikyo, Kiba said. Yonda, the main antagonist of the Midoriya Foundation, has arrived, Kiba said. Wielding her sonic hammer, Yonda steps onto the battlefield. Oh, it looks like something curious is happening. Meanwhile, on screen, Yonda was facing against Fu, but Fu's health was slowly going down. It looks like Yonda poisoned her opponent's food before the battle started. Kiba fake gasped. Her opponent's health will go down over the match, so you need to make sure to knock her out before it's too late. Good thing she doesn't have a lot of health. But she has a lot of other dirty tricks up her sleeve, Ken said bitterly. Ahaha. Pathetic. On screen, Yonda laughed, with an audio effect thrown in to make sure the audience knew she was speaking with telepathy. And then Fu glowed red and started moving towards her. This is taunt, a special move that not only makes her opponent move towards her, but also keeps them from doing anything but attacking. That includes blocking, parrying, and other moves that aren't attacks. Amai explained. Although the move will wear off once Yonda is attacked, or if she attacks you. It's a powerful tool against zoners, but also very risky because she's not too strong at close range either. Yonda used taunt once again, and Fu came closer, but this time as he did, Yonda pressed a button from behind her back, and the ground under Fu exploded, sending him back. Yonda pressed it again, and an anvil came down and slammed into him. Oh, looks like Yonda set up traps along the battlefield before the fight started. Amai said, she can set them off at any time, anywhere, so watch where you step. This time, Yonda approached Fu and grabbed him, before whispering something into his ear, letting him go, as Fu fell on his knees, leaving him stunned. That's her crushing truth move, where she tells you something you do not want to hear. Ken said, you won't be able to move until she attacks you. But Yonda has more than just dirty tricks up her sleeve. That hammer is a dangerous weapon, Amai said. Most of her attacks leave her open, but they also do a lot of damage. And on block, they do extra chip damage as well. Not to mention many of her attacks can leave the opponent stunned. Yonda got close to Fu, and then hit him with a wide hammer swing, tossing him into the wall, doing a lot of damage, and leaving him stunned, allowing her to do a combo on him. Can you withstand an endless barrage of dirty tricks and powerful strikes? Kiba asked. Face Yonda in combat, and find out. Assists. Now let's focus on the assist characters, Amai said. These are characters we wanted to include, but couldn't quite make movesets for yet. First, let's start with how assist characters work. Under the health bar, you can see your assist character, Kiba explained. As we said earlier, an assist character can use 3 moves, depending on input. However, some moves need meter in order to work. In the game, Izuku was facing Fu, and he summoned Eri, who jumped in front of him, glowed green, stayed there for a second, and then went away again. After using an assist character, you can't use them again for about 10 seconds, Amai said. But Izuku summoned another assistant, Kei this time, who went in front of him and tried to take off her visor, but Fu hit her, causing her to stop and then go away. If the assist character gets hit, the cooldown becomes longer. 15 seconds. Amai continued. Yarai. Eri is a purely defensive assist character, Amai explained. She can use up a lot of meters, but the results may be worth it. Her first move is called Unicorn Barrier, Kiba said. It's also her only move that requires no meter. Izuku was facing down Seikyo now, and Seikyo was about to send out a dark energy arrow. But Izuku summoned Eri, who jumped in front of him and took the attack. Eri will guard against all attacks and take no damage whatsoever, Ken said. Her quirk heals her so fast it's like the attack never even happened. Her next move is called Healing Hand, Kiba said. Izuku summoned Eri, who appeared behind him, and touched him real quick, replenishing some of his health and taking away some meters before leaving again. It heals 20% of your health in exchange for 2.5 bars of meter, Amai explained. And the last move is her most powerful move of all, Kiba said. Unicorn Mount. Once again, Izuku was facing Seikyo and summoned Eri. But this time she climbed onto him, and Izuku was surrounded by a green glow. Izuku then started moving towards Seikyo. Seikyo threw out various attacks, but Izuku pushed right through them without being stunned or taking damage. All the while his meter rapidly drained. Unicorn Mount makes your character completely invincible, but at the cost of draining your meter very quickly. Amai explained. And afterward, you won't be able to use her again for 25 seconds. So make sure to only use it if you have a lot of meter to spare and if you're sure you won't need Eri again for a while. Kei's first move is called Hard on the Eyes. Kiba sighed. Yes, she made us make all of the names puns. Anyway, this move will simply summon her in front of you, and she will turn the opponent to stone. Back in game, Izuku summoned Kei in front of him. She took off her visor, and Fu turned to stone. Izuku then shot him, breaking him out of stone and doing a good bit of damage. If she turns you to stone, not only will you not be able to move until the opponent attacks you, you'll also take double damage from whatever your opponent's next attack is, Amai explained. But it is very easy to dodge. You can't block it, but you just dodge it by turning around, jumping, or ducking. Of course, doing any of those can leave you vulnerable, so be careful. Her next move is called Snaky Bite, Kiba said. Izuku summoned Kei again. This time she appeared behind Fu, grabbed them, and then had her snakes bite down on him, coving Fu with a purple aura as his health slowly started depleting. It poisons the opponent for a few seconds, dealing damage, as well as making the opponent take more damage from attacks, Amai said. Her last attack is called Joking Hazard, Kiba said. It requires 2 bars of meter, and Kei tells a joke so bad, it does damage. Back in game, Izuku summoned Kei behind him, as he was facing Seikyo. I'm thirsty, got some negativity? Kei said in game. Butum Tish. And then Seikyo lost some of her health. You can't block it or dodge it. The only way to stop the attack is to stop Kei from finishing the joke, Kiba explained. Like we said, there are some inaccuracies in this game. Kei's snakes aren't poisonous, and even if you were foolish enough to attack her, she likely wouldn't stop with her puns. Kai is a special assist that can really turn the tides in your favor or cause your demise if you're not careful, Kiba warned. All of Kai's attacks can hit both players, so you can't just use him willy-nilly unless you want to get crushed under your own stupidity, Amai added. Kai's first attack is Kaiju Quake, Kiba said. Kai stomps the ground off-screen, causing everyone who is touching the ground. This time Kano was player 1, and she activated Kai's assist, causing the ground to shake and Fu to trip. Next is called Wing Flap Hurricane, Ken said. Kai flaps his wings off-screen, making a big gust of wind that pushes everything towards your side of the screen. And I do mean everything. This time Kano was against Shiruku. Shiruku had some webs on the ground, while Kano had some mosquito swarms around. Then Kano activated Kai's assist, causing a large wind to burst through the screen, pushing Shiruku and Kano towards the left side, while blowing away the webs and mosquitoes. Shiruku tried to summon her spiders, but the moment they came, they were blown away. This movie doesn't only push enemies to your side, it also clears the screen of all traps and blows all projectiles away as well, Amai explained. Useful against characters like Shiruku, although it does need 2 bars of meter to use. Kai's last move is called a Tri-Assault, Kibo explained. It's similar to an ultimate move, but it does less damage than one and only needs 3 bars of meter. Kai will bring his head in and attack 3 parts of the screen and try to grab you. Back on screen, Kai's heads came down from above and managed to snag onto Fu. This transitioned into a cut scene, where Kai lifted Fu into the air, threw him up, grabbed him with another head's mouth, then slammed into the ground and stepped on him. Then it transitioned back to the normal battlefield. Okay, I still think we should have made that do more damage, Kibo argued. If we did that, we would have to make it a full level 5. And if we did that, it would be pointless since so many characters already have moves like that. Amai argued back. It does just enough damage to be useful and pressures the opponents into thinking they need to dodge it. Yeah, but it doesn't match up with the animation. Kiba retorted. That move looks like it should take most of your health away. Even if I got hit with that, I probably wouldn't get back up for a second. Hey, we need to move on, Ken said. AKA. So if you recall, I said all of the assists had 3 moves, Kiba said. Well, that's only kind of true for AKA. She can take over the opponent's assist character. Using 3 bars of meter, you can take the opponent's assist character and use them 3 times before they go back to the opponent's side, Amai explained. When you take over the assist, they won't have any cooldowns and can be used immediately, one right after another. But after you use all 3, AKA herself will go on a 30-second cooldown. But you don't have to use the assist all 3 times. Ken said cheekily. You can just use it twice, and then never use it again to make sure your opponent can't use their assist for the rest of the match. But you won't have an assist either. Himiko. Himiko is a master of stealth, and thus most of her moves attack the opponent from behind. And if she hits the opponent back, they do more damage, Kibo explained. Her first move is called Double Daggers. Back in game, Izuku was facing Fu again, and Fu was attacking Izuku, while Izuku blocked. Then Himiko came in from the opposite side of the screen and threw 2 daggers at Fu, forcing him to stop his combo, turn around, and block them, and now Izuku started attacking him while Fu blocked. Next is Dagger Press, Amai said. Izuku summoned Himiko once again, and she grabbed Fu from behind, holding a dagger to his neck. Her last move is Disguise Disaster, Amai said. When you use this move, Himiko will secretly replace the opponent's assist, and when the opponent calls them, the assist will hit them instead. In game, Izuku activated Himiko's assist, and seemingly nothing happened except that Himiko became grayed out. Then Fu activated his assist, which was K, and K jumped out in front of him, only to immediately turn around and turn Fu to stone instead. Then K started melting away, revealing Himiko, who laughed and then jumped away. This move cost 1 bar of meter, and you can't use Himiko while she's disguised. This is the only way the opponent can tell that Himiko has taken over their assist. Amai explained. So if they're not paying attention, they can be taken off guard and done in by their own assist. Oyo. Okay, so Odo is the only assist that really doesn't have 3 moves, Amai said. He has 1. His Sonic Scream. In game, Izuku summoned Odo, who appeared in front of him and unleashed a Sonic Scream, traveling across the screen, eventually hitting Fu and doing some damage. Now it may not look like much, but that's just because it's uncharged, Kiba said. Do you see that meter below Odo's assist icon? That is the scream meter. As the match goes on, it builds up, and the fuller it is, the larger and more powerful the scream. Back to game. Now Izuku summoned Odo again, but with a full bar. This time Odo's scream was the size of the entire screen, and when it landed, it did way more damage. Costumes. We've finished with the characters, but we do have something we should mention before we go. Kiba said. Costumes. We've added in a tion of costumes that you can wear. Some were taken from things that happened at the house. Others were made up for the game. Mostly be Shiruku and Kano. Ken said. And they're all free. We will add more costumes with DLC and you will have to pay for those. But let's face it, you're going to pay for the characters and the costumes are just a bonus, Amai said. And almost every character has a special skin. The teen skin. Kiba said. This skin will not only age all of us up to around Caretaker's age. We will also be wearing hero costumes designed by Ko and Shiruku. I can't wait for you to see them. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX now. Amai said, Foundation Feud will be available to buy in 2 weeks. So get your pre-orders in now. Ken said, wield the power of the Midoriya Foundation to participate in fun-filled family fights. Kiba said, we'll be waiting. In the Midoriya labs, a young black man stared down at a test chamber. The man was dressed like any other scientist. However, what made him stand out was that almost all of him seemed to have been replaced with robot parts. Pretty much everything, but his face for the most part. Although his left eye was robotic. You seem nervous, Victor. Dr. Hikari pointed out as he stood next to him. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. Victor Rock was one of Dr. Hikari's pupils. One of his most promising ones along with Mai. Namely due to his quirk. Technopath. Technopath allowed Victor to communicate directly with machines, understanding them, and interfacing with them in ways most people simply can't. Come now, my boy, show more pride. It's finally your day in the spotlight. Dr. Hikari told him, as he patted him on the back. You've been critical to this process. Without you, it might have taken us years more to get this project off the ground. Yeah, but I've been more of a research subject than a researcher. Victor pointed out, but now I'm actually taking the lead on the project. And it's a project all about human experimentation. What if something goes wrong? You know more about human-machine interfaces than anyone in this lab, likely anyone on this planet. Dr. Hikari assured him, I'm confident nothing will go wrong with Raiden's testing today. Suddenly the door opened behind them, and in came 2 children. A young brown-headed boy with a blue shirt and brown pants, and a blonde girl wearing a red dress. Dad, Raiden's ready for the test to begin. The boy said, Thank you, Raku. Roru. Dr. Hikari said, going over to pat the 2 on the head. Didn't know you had kids, Victor said looking confused, before quickly putting it together. Androids. I always wanted children. Dr. Hikari said, going back to the test chamber window. Let us begin. With that, Raiden walked into the test chamber, katana in hand. I'm ready, Doc. Send him out. A platform rose up containing several sabers, Beowulfs, Orbitusks, Ursa, and Bearing Elves. Go, Victor said. Crockum, crockum, crockum. 3 flashes of lighting blew through the room, and by the time Dr. Hikari's eyes could catch up to what was happening, Raiden was standing in the center of a cloud of black smoke that quickly dissipated into nothing. All vitals green. Damage taken, 0.2%. Victor said as he tracked Raiden's statistics. So many Grim destroyed in less than a second. You've outdone yourself, Victor. Dr. Hikari praised, patting his student on the back. Don't give me too much credit. Most of that was done by his quirk, Victor said. Raiden Masamune. Quirk, Living Lightning. Allows the user to become a bolt of lightning, covering them with electricity and instantly accelerating them in one chosen direction at the speed of lightning. Users cannot change direction until they hit something, and the user's body is protected from the impact and lightning via a magnetic force. This diminishes with each consecutive use of the attack, making the user more vulnerable to their own attack. Yes, but Raiden would never use his quirk 3 times in a row this early on in the test unless he had faith that your augmentations would protect him. Dr. Hikari pointed out, all I did was augment and support the magnetic reinforcement field, and then enhance his body to withstand any residual force, Victor said. Anyway, Let's start test number 2. Inside the chamber, a large door opened, and in came a Mega Goliath. Once the Mega Goliath was in place, Victor called it. Start. Crockum, crockum, crockum. Once again in 3 flashes of lightning, Radian was now under the Mega Goliath, which had been sliced in half, before fading away into smoke. Incredible! With that level of attack potency, the list of things that could withstand Raiden's attacks is very, very short. Dr. Hikari explained. If everything goes as intended, Raiden should be able to hang with the strongest fighters on Earth, Victor explained. Which reminds me, we should get on to the final test. I don't think she'll want to wait much longer. The doors to the chamber opened up once more, and in walked Sori. Hey there, looking pretty tough. So you're the so-called god of lightning. And you must be Sori Jaga, the savage guard, Raiden said as he sheathed his sword. Yeah, I'd say I've gotten pretty strong. Since you're here, I guess we're done with the warm-ups. Sori took her place, walking to the opposite side of the room, and then facing Raiden, before getting into a fighting stance. Hope you don't mind if I keep more sword sheath, Raiden said as he raised his sheathed sword. Much as I would love to tell you to unleash that bad boy, I'm not that stupid, and I don't have a death wish. Sori chuckled. But enough talk. Let's go Tin Man. Crockum, 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 crockum. For just a second, maybe a couple of seconds, the chamber filled with light. And when the light vanished, the fight was already decided. Sori was pressed against the wall, and Raiden's blade was pushed against her stomach. Thankfully, it was sheathed. Her body was covered in bruises and burns, and blood was leaking from her mouth. Radian, on the other hand, had several parts of his body carved out. His mechanical eye was completely gone, and his dominant arm was no longer functional, forcing him to hold his sword with his other arm. Ha ha, hee hee, ha ha ha. Sori started laughing like mad, as she looked at Radian with a smile on her face. That was fucking awesome, man. I've never fought like that before. You really are freakishly strong. You know that, Raiden grunted. Very glad he couldn't feel pain right now. Without my augmentations, I wouldn't have stood a chance. Nah, I was using a fractal this whole time too, so who knows how it would have went, Sori admitted. Victor, could you see any of what just happened? Dr. Hikari said, having seen absolutely none of the battle. Barely, Victor said. Thanks to his own augmentations, he had been able to see the battle, but he needed to rewind the footage in his head to actually analyze it. Sori, even with her fractal, was not as fast as lightning. Not even close. But Raiden's lightning-like movement was limited. His lightning charge could move in only one direction until he hit something. So if you managed to move out of the way just as he activated his quirk, with enough speed, you could get out of the way of his charge, or even attack him during it provided they could get past the lightning. Which brought into account his second weakness, was that he had to take time to pick the next direction he would charge in and activate his quirk. Of course, with the modifications made to his brain, that amount of time was very short, less than a second. But Sori was fast and smart enough to both dodge Raiden's initial strikes and counterattack, at least while she used her fractal. However, while doing all this was possible for her, it put an incredible strain on her body, pushing her to her limits, and she had to do everything absolutely perfectly, exploiting the tiniest of windows of opportunities in order to stand a chance. Any lesser fighter wouldn't have been able to do it, but Sori didn't spend her whole life training for nothing. In response, Raiden had to respond and try to overwhelm Sori, take her off guard, get her into a position where she couldn't dodge his attacks, or just get close enough to her to shock her into submission. In the end, Sori took a gamble on the direction of Raiden's strike, guessed wrong, and got pinned. Astounding, both of them. Dr. Hikari commented. 42% damage. Damn, Victor said. Could he continue fighting? Dr. Hikari asked. He could, but with his magnetic flux enhancer damaged, he's going to start taking some serious damage every time he uses his quirk, Victor explained. Though honestly, I can't say this was a failure. We just underestimated Jaga. So can you still drink alcohol like this? Sori asked as the two started walking out of the chamber. I wouldn't have accepted this gig if I couldn't, Raiden said. But let me get some repairs first. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX when suddenly he heard a knock on the door. Knock, knock. Come in. The man sighed as he set down his pen. A woman came in, holding an armful of papers. "Sir, we may have discovered something about the location of Jack's strike." Immediately the man perked up, turning from exhausted and ready to not listen to half of what she was saying, to full alert. "Spit it out. Where?" "We recently got a report that one of the planes that was headed out of Detroit into Japan had evidence of a stowaway," the woman explained. "After further investigation, once the plane landed back in America, we found a hair sample belonging to Jack Strike." Slam. The man punched his desk so hard that the woman flinched. "Fucking damn it," the man shouted. "I want a full investigation as soon as possible. If the Midoriya Foundation finds him, then we'll never get our hands on him." "Sir, are you saying that the Midoriya Foundation would aid and abet a wanted foreign criminal?" the woman asked. "Bitch, the Midoriya Foundation is a few steps off from taking over the fucking world. Even if this is discovered, this won't do shit to him," the man shouted. And with that man's bleeding heart and Jack's sob story, there's no doubt. "Now hurry." "Why, yes, sir," the woman said before running out of the room, closing the door behind her. A paper fell from her arms, with a picture of a white-haired man that said, "Jack Strike, wanted for treason." Oki was reading a book he'd gotten from the library when he heard a knock at the door. "Yo," Fu said from the other side. "Can I come in?" Oki sighed and set down his book and went to unlock the door. "Sure." Fu entered and took a seat on one of the chairs. "Thanks. What do you want?" Oki asked, his tone indicating just how eager he was to get this over with. "Nothing much, just want to talk," Fu said casually, as he looked around at the room. It was practically barren. No decorations of anything of the like to speak of. "Not a fan of posters?" "Afraid I might eat them," Oki said. "I don't keep things I don't need. Always end up eating them in my sleep. Do you know how many pillows I had to replace?" "That's fair, I guess," Fu said. "Then you should probably go outside more." "I'm not really an outside kind of guy," Oki told him. "Or a people kind of guy." "Is that because you're concerned you're going to hurt everyone around you?" Fu asked. "Or is it because you feel so disgusting you don't think you deserve to be around them?" Oki froze, with a very deer-in-the-headlights look in his eyes, and the clamps around his body trembled. "You know, I can't really feel most things. At least not like everyone else. It's all muted," Fu explained. "But hunger? That's not muted. It's worse. Sure, I don't feel the pain, but that empty feeling, that need to put something into your mouth. It's so powerful it's like it's got a claw on your brain. You really do know what it's like," Oki said. "Back before I met Dad, it was hard to get meat." Fu continued. "And when I got too low, I'd lose control of myself. My mind just shut off, and my body moved on its own, looking for any meat in sight to scarf down. And I mean, any meat. It ended badly sometimes. Some people got hurt. I don't have to worry about it anymore, because I get plenty to eat, but I still hate the thought of it. Eating people, living people, is just disgusting." "Then how are you around people?" Oki asked, looking at him almost desperately. "Doesn't it feel wrong?" "Sometimes. I just don't think about it most of the time." Fu shrugged. "Unfortunately, that's not really an option for you, is it? But honestly, you don't really have to worry about hurting people here. They're all way too strong. If you tried, you'd get tackled and knocked out faster than you can say om nom nom. But if you don't trust that, stick close to me. It doesn't matter if you take a bite out of me, so it should be fine. Beats hanging around here, all depressed." Oki considered it, but seemed hesitant. "You want to know something interesting?" Fu said. "Mr. Akira told me about something called exposure therapy. The more you're around something, the better you get at handling it. Kind of like how you get better at things the more you do them. So if you go around people more, you'll get better at resisting the urge." "Is that true?" Oki asked, unsure if he could trust that. "Really," Fu told him. "And if you stay in here, all you're going to do is damage your mind. Loneliness is the mind's greatest enemy after all, and you need your brain in tip-top shape, otherwise you're going to give in to that hunger." Oki thought about it. He was far from comfortable with the idea, but at the same time, he didn't love his current plan either. Fu seemed to know what he was talking about, so maybe he could trust him. "All right, so what do you want to do outside? How about we just go for a walk?" Fu shrugged. "We don't have to do too much too fast. So if things get too hard, or you feel like you need to eat something right now, just tell me. Or anyone else really. We all know what it's like to be afraid of hurting people, and that's why we're all here. And we all want to help each other, including you. Remember that." XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX was currently watching over a coloring session in the art room. Tenko smiled as Mina ruffled his hair. He liked the Midoriya Foundation. His first few weeks here had been in kind of a haze. But at least they let him be depressed without yelling at him like, "Nope, not thinking about it." And after he started going out and doing stuff again, it was so much fun. Pool parties whenever he wants. Running through the woods. Petting Fuku's bear whose fur reminded him of his old. Nope. And no one even laughed at him when he said he wanted to be a hero. They didn't beat him either. Like his dead dad did. Tenko sniffled as tears rolled down his cheeks. He tried to hold them in, but to no avail. "Oh, sweetheart," Mina said as she wrapped her arms around the poor boy, who quickly embraced her in return. As Mina comforted the boy, Kyoko watched the two of them, not saying a word, just yet. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX walk him back, but Tenko refused. He'd embarrassed himself enough by crying out of nowhere. "What's wrong with me? Why am I such a baby?" Tenko thought as he sniffled. "Tenko. Huh?" Tenko turned behind him and saw Kyoku approaching him. "Come with me," Kyoku said, grabbing Tenko's arm and started dragging him away. "Huh? Wait, where are we going?" Tenko asked as Kyoku continued to take him away. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX support group, Kei said. Huh? Thinko repeated. Kyoko had taken him to a mostly empty room, with a bunch of chairs formed into a circle. In those chairs were Kei, Kyoku, Fuku, Fuhai, Inu, as well of course himself. All of you have had bad parents, and you just can't get over it like everyone else, Kei said. And that's okay. You should never feel bad about feeling bad. You can't help how you feel sometimes, and that doesn't make you weak or pathetic. It just makes you human. And so in these meetings, we're going to try to help you guys out. Let's start by telling each other our stories and why we're here so we can understand each other. Who wants to go first? Kyoku raised her hand. Kyoku then. Kei said, Okay, my name is Kyoku. My parents never paid any attention to me, and sometimes they'd just completely forget about me. Kyoku admitted. And any time they would try to get them to notice me, they'd get mad and punish me. Sometimes they would even not feed me for a while. They never loved me, and they never would never. I know that. But I just can't stop being angry about it. When I see other happy families, I get jealous, even though I have a happy family now. And it's just so frustrating. Ugh. Fuku patted the girl on the back, as she took a second to calm down after getting worked up. It's okay, Kyoku, just breathe. Thank you for sharing, Kyoku, Kei said. Anyone else? Inu raised her hand. I guess I'll go. My daddy wasn't a good man. He abandoned our big brother, and he didn't really take care of us much. Sometimes we'd have to work to feed ourselves, and I don't think he hugged any of us once. And eventually, he just left us. But I don't hate him. I always wanted to like him. I used to defend him when my sisters would speak bad about him. But I know I was wrong. Even now sometimes I wish he'd come back and say he's sorry. Thank you, Inu, Kei said. You see can I go? Fuhai asked sheepishly. After Kei nodded, he continued. I woke up, and I heard Mommy got rid of me. It wasn't really me, it was Fu, but that still really hurts. It hurts a lot. Mommy was so nice, and I loved her so much. Why did she get rid of me? Fuhai broke down into tears, and both Fuku and Kei went to hug and comfort him. I want Mommy. I miss her. Fuhai sobbed, his tears forming into streams worthy of his family name. It's okay. It's okay, Kei assured him calmly. It's okay, cry as much as you need. And so he did. Fuhai continued to cry for quite some time, until eventually he just ran out of steam. There you go, buddy. You feeling a bit better now? Kei asked him. Fuhai sniggled. A little. Great. Kei cheered as she went back to her seat. Remember everyone, don't be afraid to cry. It's not something to be ashamed of, and it can make you feel better. Okay, who wants to share next? I guess I'll go next. Fuku said, taking a deep breath as she prepared herself. My dad was an awful man. He basically named me disappointment when he found out I wasn't born a boy. He tried to force me to be some kind of perfect bride to marry off to some rich guy. He'd yell and scream and hit me if I didn't do well enough. He made me into this scared little thing that has a hard time leaving her room. And I can't even call Mr. Midoriya dad, because when I think of what a dad is, I think of my old one, and Mr. Midoriya's so much better than him. Kyoko patted her on the back. Thanks, Fuku, Kei said, before turning to Tenko. Tenko, do you want to share? Tenko hesitated and looked at Kyoko, who gave him a thumbs up. Well, why not, I guess? Tenko sighed. So, my family they were nice to me, most of the time. But, whenever I said I wanted to be a hero, Dad would get really angry. He'd yell and scream and beat me, and no one would do anything about it. I didn't give up, though. I went out and tried to help people, and every time I came home, Dad knew somehow, and he'd beat more and more. It'd get worse every time. Mom would get upset, ask him to stop, but he never did. She never made him stop. And then, one day I woke up, and now they're all dead. All of them. My dad, my mom, my grandparents, my sister, my dog. I should be sad, right? And I am, but I'm not also. They were nice to me. They even loved me, I think, but they let him hurt me. He beat me up, and they did nothing. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Why didn't they help me? Once again, tears rolled down his cheeks. He half-heartedly tried to keep them in. But then Kyoko came and patted him on the back. Let it out, buddy. That's what we're here for, Kyoko said. We won't judge, Inu reassured him. I just don't know how to feel. Tenko sobbed. I'm so confused and it hurts. After that, Tenko cried for a bit longer, and he calmed down again, feeling just a tiny bit better. Thank you for sharing, Tenko. Kei praised him. All of us have similar problems, even if some things are different. Kyoko said, so all of us know how you feel. Just remember that you are never alone. We're all going to try and understand our feelings and get through them together. Tenko felt a bit warm at that statement. Sure, he still didn't have answers, but at the very least he didn't feel stupid or isolated because of it. He really did love the Midoriya Foundation. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX currently at his desk, in front of his laptop, which was facilitating a video call between him and none other than Melissa Shield. Same. I've heard quite a bit about you. Melissa chuckled. As a quirkless person, it's pretty much impossible not to hear about you. I can imagine. Izuku chuckled in return, albeit apologetically. Sorry about that. No worries, Melissa said. And please call me Melissa. In that case, please call me Izuku, Izuku told her. Now, I'm sure you've been busy given the recent events that occurred during the expo. Melissa sighed, her expression immediately showing several shades of distress. That's an understatement of the century. Putting aside my own personal distress, my father's betrayal has caused many here to distrust me, including the people funding my projects. If it weren't for Uncle Mike vouching for me, I don't think I'd be able to do anything around here. I guess that leans into what I wanted to talk about, Izuku said. I've heard much about your work. Your understanding of quirks surpasses many of our own scientists, and they have access to chaos energy research. I would love it if you would consider working with us. I assure you your father's actions would have no effect on your treatment, and you would get access to resources and research that could greatly expand your capabilities. Melissa pondered the offer for a few moments. In reality, there's pretty much no practical reason for me not to accept that offer. I'm just a little hesitant about leaving the island. Completely understandable, Izuku said. It's difficult to leave a familiar place. I would know. I rarely leave my own house. To be fair, that might be more because of the assassins than anything else. Melissa pointed out. Surprisingly, I go outside more nowadays than before the assassins started coming, Izuku said. Anyways, this offer is always on the table, so if you want to accept, just call me. Thank you, both for your offer and for being so understanding. Melissa said. One more thing, Izuku said. I feel I should tell you that we have contacted your father with a similar offer, with some stipulations given his previous actions. Melissa frowned. Is that so? Yes, he was able to directly affect the quirk factor without negative consequences, in a way unseen by anyone, Izuku said. Could you imagine what he could do with access to chaos energy? Under proper supervision, of course. You understand how dangerous that technology is, right? Melissa asked. We all had to go through hell to keep that crown thing from getting out into the underground. I can't tell you how relieved I was when it broke. Izuku sighed. I've said this before, I'll probably keep saying it for as long as I live. The problem with dangerous technological advancements is that you can't stop them. The ability to learn and create is exclusive to no one. Even if David Shield never makes another quirk-boosting device, someone, somewhere, at some point will. And if that's the case, I want that technology to be in our hands, rather than someone less equipped to guard it, or someone who would misuse it immediately. If we understand what it's made of, we can figure out if someone is trying to create one illegally. If we understand how it works, we can understand how to counter it. Do you see what I'm saying? Melissa took a moment to let that sink in. You're right. It's just scary to think that something like that may become more common. Even Uncle might struggle against it. Of that, we can agree. Izuku shook his head. I fear the quirk singularity, or perhaps simply the power singularity, might not be as far away as we thought. I may just need to build a stronger world to handle it. I guess that's all we can really do, isn't it? Melissa said, giving a half-hearted laugh. You could call Mineta many things, most of them not nice. But an idiot wasn't one of them. Although that may seem surprising to many, anyone who was forced to stay around him for a while figured out the small boy was actually very intelligent. And once you figured that out, everything about him made less sense. Why act the way he does when anyone with a brain could tell that that would only drive women away from him, make them despise him? And what was with the design for his hero costume? How could he not realize that the Great Bull thing looks like a diaper? Was he really so driven by his hormones that his brain stopped working? No. Mineta knew very well what effect his actions had, how it made people look at him. But they were looking at him. He didn't even reach most people's field of view, and yet whenever he entered a room, everyone knew it. Everyone looked at him, acknowledged him. They even had a fun dynamic going on. He'd do something stupid and perverted, and the girls would beat the crap out of him. A win-win scenario. At least that's what he assumed. Because if the girls really wanted him expelled, they could have done so by now, especially with someone like Momo on their side. So the only explanation for why he was still at UA was that they enjoyed beating him up. Now someone might argue, Mineta, won't this ruin your reputation? Ruin any chance of actually finding a girlfriend? Finding love? And to that, Mineta would simply point out that he was a short, ugly boy with sticky purple balls growing from his head. There's no improving your reputation when you look like this. There's no finding love. That's all fairy tale crap. Ugly people truly were the bottom rung of this world when it came to love. No matter what quirk you had or didn't have, so long as you were at least a little attractive, there was hope for you romantically. Ugly people didn't even want to get together with other ugly people either. They, like everyone else, pinned from the beautiful. Love had never been an option for Mineta. That was decided at birth. People already looked at him strangely when he was young, and it got worse once balls started growing out of his head. It was a novelty for a while. They laughed at him. He did some silly tricks with his new quirk, and they laughed some more. He was like a clown. It was fun, but it didn't last long. The novelty stopped being novel, and soon Mineta started being excluded from the rest of the class. When he asked why they wouldn't play with him anymore, they would answer something like, because you look ugly. This didn't change as he got older. If anything, it got worse, as it became clear just how Mineta was growing. Or rather, how he wasn't. Being short by itself wasn't the problem. Short people, even people as short as Mineta, could still be attractive, if they were cute. Mineta was not. He'd never really been cute as a kid, and that didn't change. So his being short only added to how unattractive he was. It also gave the impression of a lacking in a certain area. Not that it was a wrong impression. And so people looked away from him, assuming they saw him at all. All the way up until his last year of middle school, people just kinda ignored him. Of course, he'd still try his hardest to make friends. Maybe even a girlfriend. He'd look up guides online on how to befriend people, how to endear yourself, how to get people to look past your looks. Nothing worked, and any attempt he made to socialize had been brushed off. Occasionally he'd get mad fun of and bullied, but never anything long-term. They'd typically just go back to ignoring him pretty quickly. His parents weren't much better. They weren't the worst parents, but they made it pretty clear they were disappointed in how their son turned out. As such, whenever he was around, they typically weren't. Eventually, Mineta realized the way of the world. He realized that any attempt to become something more than just an unpleasant sight would be pointless. In denial, he decided to become a pro-hero. If he saved lives, people would have to acknowledge him, right? This wasn't true, of course. Even heroes like Gang Orca, who had done so much good for this world, had never once had a girlfriend. In fact, people had put him in the top 3 on the list of heroes that look like villains. The fact that such an insensitive and horrible list existed, and everyone was just okay with it, showed how much looks affected your place in society. With the fact that the top heroes in the popularity polls were always the attractive ones added to it. And yet, he still decided to become a hero. Because what else was he going to do? It was his best shot at getting noticed. Then, something changed. Some boys wanted to play a prank on him. They said they'd let him be a part of their group if he stole a pair of panties from the girls' locker room. It was a lie, of course. Deep down, Mineta knew that. But he was desperate. Of course, he did as they said. And of course, he was caught. Not immediately. He'd managed to hide when the girls came in and stayed hidden long enough for them to start undressing. By the time they'd found him, he'd gotten to see something that his young, extremely frustrated brain would never let him forget. But that wasn't the only positive to come from that experience. From that point on, Mineta had been branded a pervert. People would look at him with disdain, bully him regularly, and come up with new, insulting nicknames for him. Hell, his parents had even paid attention to him for a short while, yelling about how much of a disappointment he was. They acknowledged that Mineta Minru existed. From that point on, things became clear. If wanted to get noticed, he'd have to make sure they could not ignore him. And so was created the Mineta everyone knows and hates, but knows nonetheless. Sure, Mineta knew that what he did, morally speaking, wasn't the greatest. Sometimes he'd wonder if he went too far, committed to a bit of a smidge too much. But if the world was going to be so unkind to him, why should he be hesitant to sling a tiny bit of unkindness back? Besides, he was going to be a hero. He was going to save lives. That more than balanced out his karma, or whatever. He'd almost call himself a good person, almost. When he got UA, he found more of the same. Sure, 1A were all good people, but whether you were a good person or not didn't matter. The rule of attractiveness was present in everyone. When the girls talk about boys, they talk about people like Todoroki and Ida. He'd never heard them talk about Kota, Shoji, or him. While Mineta was sure these girls wouldn't make fun of him for his appearance, they would ignore him, like everyone else would. And so he continued his antics. Soon, all of UA knew of Mineta the pervert. His perversion had even netted him something like a friend in fellow pervert Kaminari. Mineta was doing about as well as someone like him could be. For the uglies in this world, it was be ignored or be despised, and Mineta would gladly choose the second option. However, suddenly, there was a new option. Midoriya Izuku had harnessed incredible technology. He was even capable of completely changing his gender as if he was always born as a woman. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. He knew it. Midoriya was a secretive person, especially when it came to his technology. So if he was willing to show them this, then he certainly had more impressive and powerful appearance-changing technology hidden away. This would be his key. The key to a better life. Now he just had to get that key. Ugh. Izuku groaned. Mineta and Izuku were meeting in his office, Sue standing by Izuku's side, ready and alert as always. Getting a meeting with Izuku wasn't hard. He still had his phone number from when he was helping around the foundation, and since Midoriya was a saint, he agreed to meet him without needing much convincing, even despite his busy schedule. Honestly, he really vibed with Midoriya. Beyond just him being the nicest person he ever met, Izuku was someone who was also screwed over from birth. Even worse than he was, honestly. He'd seen Izuku fight with his temporary quirk, and even though Shina helped him adjust to it, Mineta had no doubt that Izuku would still be able to use it extremely effectively without that assistance. Given how incredibly intelligent he was, and how good he was at figuring out quirks. He helped Uraraka invent full cowling after all. Mineta had also seen what Izuku looked like as a girl, and the word, attractive, was not enough to describe them. And that wasn't even as an adult. Mineta could only imagine how hot an adult female Izuku would be. If Izuku had been born as a girl, with a quirk, they'd be destined for top 10 hero status. Of that, there was no doubt in his mind. And yet, he had been born a guy and quirkless. It was as if he was nerfed by God. Although with that said, he was still capable of becoming the most powerful man on Earth despite this. And appearance-wise, he wasn't bad at all. A solid 6 or 7. Putting all that aside, Mineta had just finished telling him the full details about the Yonda blackmail incident. I can't believe Fu would do something like that under my nose. Izuku sighed. I'm sorry that Yonda did that to you. But I have to wonder, why are you telling me about this now? Your daughter blackmailed me. I want compensation. Mineta said, sweating bullets, hoping this would work. Compensation. Izuku took a look at Mineta, noticing how nervous he was. And what do you want? Mineta pulled a piece of paper, unfolded it, and handed it to Izuku. Izuku took it and quickly read over it. His eyes widened as he did. I know you can do it, Mineta said, forcing up the courage he needed. You have the tech. Izuku took a moment before responding, giving Mineta a serious look. The technology required for this is still being worked on and tested. In theory, we could do this for you, but there would be consequences. What kind? Mineta gulped, hoping they wouldn't be so bad. The process would make unpredictable alterations to your brain, Izuku said. While your memories would stay intact, parts of your personality, the way you think and perceive things, and even your sexuality might change. I'm fine with that, Mineta said, breathing a sigh of relief. I mean, let's face it, no one would be upset if my personality changed. Not even you. And my sexuality worth it? You're not afraid of your mind changing on a fundamental level? Izuku asked, looking at the boy with a bit of concern. It'll almost be like being a new person. That's what I want, Mineta shouted almost desperately. Please. Izuku continued to look concerned as he thought about this for a while. I can clearly see that this is important to you, and I don't have any real reason to refuse. However, I will need to ask your parents for permission. PFT, they won't care. Mineta scoffed. They stopped giving a damn about me a while ago. And I'm going to need you to get therapy, Izuku said. Because it's very obvious that you need it. Fine. Mineta agreed, looking very hopeful. I accept. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Apparently, he's getting some surgery from the Midoriya Foundation. Whatever that means. Why does that sentence give me chills? Jiro cringed. You think you can surgically get rid of perversion? Toru asked. If anyone can, it's Midoriya, Sue said. Still, I wonder what Midoriya could possibly want with Mineta, and why would it involve surgery? Maybe he flirted with Uraraka one too many times and Midoriya decided to take his balls. Mina snickered. Achiko rolled her eyes. Grow up, Mina. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX table. Ugh, what do you want charged, ol? Jiro asked, raising her ear jacks threateningly. If it's something pervy, you're walking away from here with 2 more holes. Nah, just wanted to ask you girls a question, Kaminari said casually. You see, I was thinking about my Netta after what happened in class, and I thought of something. Couldn't you girls just get him expelled if you really wanted to? I mean, I don't want you to, but that seems like something you girls would want because he's a bit much. So why don't you? Pretty much all the girls sighed, their faces revealing a bit of sadness and frustration. Well, at first we just thought Yue would do something about it, Mina said. I mean, it just seemed kinda obvious that one of the teachers would do something about him. Eventually we figured out they weren't going to, for reasons I don't understand. But by that point, we learned a bit more about my Netta. Momo added, namely that he's doing what he's doing, mostly for attention. First, there's the fact that no one in real life acts the way my Netta does. Sue pointed out, maybe in an anime or something, but in real life the only people who'd pull stunts like that are absolute morons. Which my Netta isn't. Speaking of him not being a moron, anyone with half a brain would realize that doing what my Netta does isn't going to get him any girls. Mina said. Second is that he always gets caught, Toru said. Literally every time he tries something, he gets caught. Almost like he wants to get caught. And the last part that tipped us off was that he never tries to fight back whenever we punish him. Ochiko pointed out, Manetta's not weak. If he tried, he could probably at least escape from us depending on the situation. But he just takes it, like he wants it. Given all that, we've come to the conclusion that my Netta's antics are just extremely desperate attention-seeking attempts. Momo frowned, and so we didn't get rid of him. Most out of pity. It's hard to be super angry at him once you realize how utterly pathetic he is, Jiro said. I mean, I'm still mad, but I didn't feel as mad as I would be, and I just don't care enough to get him expelled in the end. And after that, we just kinda got used to him. Toru shrugged, desensitized and all that. Honestly, it's not a healthy way to go about things. both for our sake and Mineta's. As we said, I've been trying to plan some kind of intervention, but that'd require me to know more about him, which means spending time with him, which he does not make easy. UA's complete lack of anything when it comes to Mineta is extremely concerning. Momo sighed. I have half the mind to make a complaint about their inactivity, although it does give us the benefit of dealing with situations as we see fit. Okay, I kinda get it. Kaminari said as he pondered that. So Mineta was an attention seeker. Yeah, that made sense. Even to Kaminari, Mineta's actions seemed extreme, to say the least, which is why he didn't step in when the girls decided to punish him for his actions. But it made him wonder, if Mineta only wanted attention, could he have done something about that? Could he have perhaps been a better friend? And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Please make sure to support the writer. And don't forget to like, sub, and leave a comment. Till next time.